In the corridors of the hospital, the smell of blood mixed with the stench of decay penetrated everyone's nostrils like an invisible mist. Screams came one after another, mixed with the muffled sound of broken bones and the wet sound of biting. Luo Li clenched the syringe in her hand and leaned against the sloping iron door. Outside the door was hell. The patients who were still seeking treatment a moment ago were now twisted into monsters with abnormally long limbs. Their skin was cracked like withered tree bark. Red threads burst out of their eyes and they roared like beasts. They pounced on the survivors, tearing away flesh and blood and devouring the screaming souls. "Doctor! Help me!" A middle-aged woman crawled over. Her hands were bloody and her nails were broken. Her eyes were distracted and she murmured, They are coming monsters, my child." Her voice trembled like a candle in the wind. Luo Li squatted down, suppressing the nausea in her heart, and whispered, "Look into my eyes. Take a deep breath. The monster hasn't come yet. Your child is waiting for you." She inserted the needle into the side of the woman's neck and slowly pushed the medicine in. The woman's twitching gradually stopped, her pupils focused, and she gasped, "Doctor, I feel much better." Luo Li didn't have time to explain. She stood up and scanned the chaos at the end of the corridor. An infected person was pressing a man to the ground, his teeth embedded in his shoulder, and blood sprayed like rain. The man had not mutated, but panic had consumed him. He grabbed a scalpel, stabbed the air around him, and shouted, "Get out! Get away, all of you! The world is over, it's over." The horror of the virus is not only the distortion of the body, it is like an invisible poisonous mist, eroding the minds of survivors, causing rationality to collapse and killing each other. According to rumors, there are ancient ruins deep in the wasteland, hiding high-tech fortresses that can filter poisonous gas and recreate air purification. But who dares to go? Who still has the energy to dream? The young nurse next to her had her eyes wide open, her face stained with tears, and the bandage in her hand fell to the ground. "Dr. Luo, how did you do it? They are all crazy. The virus not only mutates people, but also eats their brains. Those monsters used to be humans, but now they only have killing instincts." The nurse's voice was so sharp that it seemed to be broken. Several survivors around also turned their heads, their eyes changing from despair to surprise. Someone whispered, "Is she a devil? The virus infects the mind. No one can save it." "Seal the door," Luo Li ordered. The nurses and survivors tremblingly pushed the medical cabinet and barely blocked the passage. The monster's impact made a thunderous sound, the door panel shook, and dust blew into the face. One survivor collapsed. He threw away his weapon, knelt down, and held his head. "It's useless. We are all dead. The monsters will break in and eat us up." His cry triggered a chain reaction. The eyes of others began to blur. Their fingers were pressed into their palms and blood dripped. Luo Li took a deep breath. The rancid smell was pungent. She walked closer to the collapser, her voice like a cold steel needle. "Stop. Listen to me. Do you feel the heartbeat? 1, 2, 3. The monster is outside, we are inside. You are not a monster, you are a human." She tapped his temples with her fingers and spoke as smoothly as hypnosis. "Imagine Castle Fortress. There is clean air there and there is no poisonous fog. Hold on, we will go there." The man's sobs weakened, and when he raised his head, his eyes were clear and he murmured, "Fortress. Yes, we have to survive." People around were stunned and someone wiped away tears and whispered. She stabilized him without touching the medicine. "Is Dr. Luo a god?" But heaven turned into hell in an instant. There was a loud noise from the walls, the entire hospital tilted, and a swarm of monsters poured in like a tide. Luo Li grabbed her backpack. There were only a few bottles of water, compressed biscuits and sedatives left in it, and the lack of supplies was chilling. She pulled up the woman and the nurse and said, "Let's go." The three of them rushed to the back door, stepping on a pool of blood, which felt sticky like the mire of hell. The nurse tripped and the monster rushed towards her. Luo Li stabbed her eye socket with a needle, causing black blood to splatter. She dragged the nurse up and said, "Run." Outside the back door is a ruined parking lot, with black smoke rising from charred vehicles and the smell of gasoline and corpses filling the air. Two figures are fighting the monster. One is a rough man holding a wrench to smash the monster's head. The other is a slender woman, using a wire to short-circuit the engine of a pickup truck, causing sparks to fly. The man yelled, "Damn it, the tire burst, monsters are surrounding us." The woman screamed, "The engine can't restart, we're finished." Luo Li rushed forward, followed by women and nurses. She shouted to the rough man, "Hold on. They are afraid of fire." She lit the alcohol cotton and threw it at the group of monsters. The flames shot up, and the smell of burnt meat was pungent. The monsters flinched and roared. The slender woman turned her head and her eyes lit up. "Are you Dr. Luo from the hospital? Rumor has it that you can cure lunatics." She was Mu Xue, an engineering genius with hands covered in engine oil who had just crawled out of the basement. The rugged man Li Xiu gasped and wiped his sweat. "There are more and more monsters, water and food are lost. How can we survive?" Luo Li glanced at them, her voice unmistakable. "Join hands. Get in the car first." Mu Xue got into the driver's seat, dismantling the instrument panel with flying fingers. The circuit sparks flickered, and the engine roared to life. Li Xiu's eyes widened. How did you fix it?" "This is a quantum lock. I tried it for half an hour." The door was closed and the four people Luo Li, Mu Xue, Li Xiu, plus the woman they had just rescued squeezed into the pickup truck. The monster jumped on the roof of the car, its claws making a harsh metallic sound. Mu Xue stepped on the accelerator hard, the tires skidding in the blood and mud, and finally broke out of the encirclement. In the rearview mirror, the hospital was in flames, and the screams were fading away. But the crisis is not over. Driving on a wasteland road, there were collapsed high-rise buildings and piles of corpses on both sides. The poisonous mist filled the air and made people cough. Suddenly, in the middle of the road ahead, a man waved to stop the car. He was covered in blood and his eyes were red. He shouted, "Save me! The monster is coming." Li Xiu clenched the wrench. "Don't stop. He may be an infected person." Mu Xue hesitated and the car slowed down. The man rushed closer and Luo Li saw clearly. He was not a monster, but his eyes were distracted and he murmured, "They are in the brain, eating my brain." He was Xiao Yi, the leader of the team who had just lost half of his team. A group of monsters sprang out from the ruins. Luo Li gritted her teeth and said, "Stop! Pull him up." Li Xiu jumped down and dragged Xiao Yi up. The monsters rushed towards him and he broke his neck bones with a wrench. Black blood spattered all over his clothes. After Xiao Yi got in the car, he slumped in the seat, held his head in his hands, and his voice trembled like a leaf in the wind. "My teammates are all dead, killing each other. The virus eats the mind, we are all finished. The monsters will come and eat everything." It was dead silent inside the car. Li Xiu wiped the blood from the wrench and glared at Luo Li. "He's crazy. Throw it away, there are not enough supplies." Mu Xue's hand holding the steering wheel turned white. "There are only 3 days of food left and even less water. Open your mouth more, we are all thirsty." The woman cried, and the air was filled with the smell of fearful sweat. Luo Li turned around and faced Xiao Yi, her voice as firm as steel. "Xiao Yi, look at me. Take a deep breath. The monster didn't eat you, you're still alive." She touched his pulse with her finger, speaking slowly. "Your teammates are dead, but you are not. You are the leader, and the fortress is waiting for you. Imagine there. Clean air, filtered poisonous mist, a new home." Xiao Yi's trembling gradually stopped, his eyes became focused and he gasped, "Fortress? Yes, I want to take everyone there." Li Xiu's wrench fell and hit the ground with a muffled sound. His eyes widened and his voice trembled. "Oh my God! She cured him without using any medicine. What kind of monster is this woman?" Mu Xue glanced at the rearview mirror, her pupils shrinking. "Dr. Luo, you just saved my buddy's spirit. In the wasteland, no one can stabilize the collapsed. You are our savior." The woman wiped her tears and murmured, "A miracle." The convoy was reorganized, 5 people crowded into the pickup truck, and the back compartment was filled with looted supplies. 10 packs of compressed biscuits, 12 bottles of mineral water, a few shots of sedatives, and 2 barrels of gasoline. When Luo Li was counting, her finger stopped on the last pack of biscuits. "Food has been in short supply for 3 days. Save money and find a fortress." Li Xiu swallowed, his greedy eyes flashed past, but was suppressed by Luo Li's gaze. He lowered his head and said, "It's up to you, boss. Human nature is twisted in front of hunger and thirst, but Luo Li's calmness like a knife makes greed retreat. The pickup truck drove into the dusk wasteland, its engine roaring, its tires grinding over gravel and raising dust. The poisonous fog is getting thicker, and the shadow of the monster outside the window is shaking. Xiaoyi was sitting in the passenger seat, clenching his fists and whispering, "We will survive." Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Mu Xue smiled. Li Xiu clapped his legs and laughed. With Dr. Luo, this team is invincible. But as night fell, car lights pierced the darkness, and the roadblock loomed ahead. Xiaoyi suddenly froze, his eyes as slack as a dead fish, muttering to himself, his voice squeezed out from deep in his throat. "Monsters, monsters are coming. They are coming, eat us up." His fingers dug into the leather of the seat, making a harsh sound. Li Xiu turned around, his face turned pale. "Boss? Boss, what's wrong with you?" Mu Xue stepped on the accelerator, the car bumped, and Luo Li's heart sank to the bottom. Collapse again? In the rearview mirror, black shadows surged, and a low roar came from the distance like hell calling. "Boss! The monster is catching up!" Li Xiu roared, holding the wrench tightly in his rough hands. His knuckles turned white, and beads of sweat slid down his beard, dripping on the seat and making a slight sizzling sound. He turned to glare at Xiaoyi, his voice full of panic. "Wake the fuck up! Don't talk to yourself there." Xiaoyi huddled in the passenger seat, his eyes as gray as death, and muttered and repeated, "Monsters!" They whispered in their ears, "Eat us up." His fingers dug into the flesh of his thighs unconsciously, and blood seeped out, dyeing his trousers red, and the car was filled with the smell of blood. The middle-aged woman huddled in the corner of the back seat, hugging her knees and sobbing, her voice trembling like a candle in the wind. "We are dead, my child, my child." Luo Li's heart felt like it was falling into an ice cave. She glanced at everyone, and the rancid night wind poured in through the gap in the car window, making her throat dry. The scarcity of supplies is like a shackle, and every breath reminds me of the shadow of hunger and thirst. There are only 10 packs of biscuits and 12 bottles of water left, which is enough to last for 3 days. She took a deep breath to suppress the despair surging in her chest, and her voice was as calm as a blade. "Mu Xue, go around the roadblock and go through the ruins on the left. Everyone, shut up and save oxygen." Mu Xue gritted her teeth and nodded, switching gears with her fingers flying. The engine roared like a beast, and the pickup truck slammed into a pile of corpses. There was a crisp sound of bones cracking, and blood splashed on the windshield, blurring her vision. As she wiped it, her hands shook violently and she whispered, "Dr. Luo, you always have a way. But the monster is getting closer." The headlights of the pickup truck were like 2 pale sharp blades, cutting through the roadblocks in the night. Collapsed container trucks lay across the road. The tires were covered with severed limbs and dried blood, and the air was filled with the stench of rust and rotten flesh, making people's stomachs churn. Mu Xue turned the steering wheel hard, and the car slid sideways. The tires screeched against the asphalt road, and gravel flew like shrapnel. In the rearview mirror, black shadows surged, low roars came like a tide. The claws of the monster scraped the ground, and sparks flew everywhere. At dawn, the pickup truck drove into the core of the ruined city. The sun pierced the poisonous fog and illuminated the broken glass and charred corpses on the ground. Luo Li took inventory of her backpack. 10 packs of compressed biscuits emitted a faint musty smell, and mist condensed on the water bottles. She tore open a package and divided it into 5 equal parts. Each person had a small piece of biscuit that was as hard as stone. Her eyes were steely as she handed it to everyone. "Daily quota, 1 biscuit, half a water bottle. Whoever wastes it, throw it away. Hunger is the monster's second face, we can't lose." Li Xiu took the biscuit, chewed it loudly. His eyes flashed with the shadow of hunger. His Adam's apple rolled when he swallowed, and he murmured in a low voice, "That's it? I'm the first one. I can eat 3 pieces in a day." But Luo Li's eyes swept over, and he immediately lowered his head and gritted his teeth and said, "Yes, boss. It's up to you." Mu Xue nodded, her eyes lit up with admiration. "Dr. Luo, you distribute it like an army. We live longer." The woman's eyes were filled with tears and she murmured, "God, you saved us." Xiaoyi chewed mechanically, his eyes still distracted, and no one dared to touch his portion. Li Xiu climbed behind the car and stroked the tire with his rough hands. His expression suddenly changed. He pressed hard and the rubber groaned tiredly, and the cracks spread like spider webs. Damn it! 80% of the tires are worn out, and they will explode after just 50 kilometers of running. Where are the parts? We don't even have a spare tire. He punched the rear of the car, causing a muffled sound that made the dust fly off, and the smell of sweat hit his nostrils. Mu Xue poked her head out from the driver's seat and squinted at the ancient ruins not far away. A half-collapsed stone door building with vines wrapped around it. The door was engraved with rusty runes and had a faint metallic luster. There. I can crack the ruins door lock. High-tech parts, maybe tire modules or synthetic rubber. Li Xiu's eyes widened and his voice trembled. Are you crazy? There are more monsters in the ruins. The door lock is quantum encrypted, and no one has ever opened it in the wasteland. Mu Xue smiled and tapped the steering wheel with her fingers. Try? Otherwise we will all be stuck. Luo Li nodded. Go. But be careful. Everyone's eyes turned from despair to suspicion. Can this woman really open it? On the way, a small group of monsters emerged from the sewers. They were three-headed beasts with deformed skin. Their skin was like molten wax. Their claws scraped the ground and scratched out sparks, and their roars were like tearing metal. The pickup truck came to a sudden stop and the tires screamed. Xiaoyi suddenly woke up, grabbed the rifle and jumped out of the window as bold as a lion. Two on the left, Li Xiu. I'll do it on the right. Protect the supplies. He pulled the trigger and the bullet exploded in the head. Black blood splashed out like a fountain, and the smell of burnt meat instantly filled the air. Li Xiu swung a wrench and smashed a head into pieces, causing bone pulp to scatter everywhere. He gasped and laughed. The boss is awesome. One shot to the head. Mu Xue fired from the roof of the car, hitting the knee accurately, and the monster knelt down and wailed. The woman screamed and covered her eyes, but Luo Li pulled her back. Look, the monster is dead. We won. After the battle, everyone was relieved. Li Xiu patted Xiaoyi on the shoulder. Boss, you are back. But victory turned into a shadow. When Xiaoyi was cleaning his gun, his eyes were distracted again and he whispered, I heard. They said that Li Xiu wanted to grab cookies. Mu Xue is a spy. He turned to glare at Li Xiu, his voice trembling. Are you loyal? There is something in your eyes. Li Xiu was stunned and dropped the wrench with a muffled sound. His face turned pale. Boss, you heard wrong. Mu Xue's hand holding the steering wheel had veins popping out, and he whispered to Luo Li. He is hallucinating. If you question us, we don't have enough supplies, the internal fighting will be over. Luo Li nodded and pulled Mu Xue to the back of the car to whisper. The wind blew through the ruins, bringing the smell of corpses. There are 2 days of water left, and there are even fewer biscuits. The ruins of the supermarket ahead, grab cans and medical kits. Split up, you crack the ruins and I will stabilize them. Mu Xue's pupils shrank and her voice trembled. Dr. Luo, you always have a plan. But the monster. Luo Li held her hand and said, Trust me. Supermarkets are like tombs with overturned shelves, cans tumbling into the dust, and the pungent smell of moldy jelly in the air. Li Xiu kicked open the door and rushed in first, grabbing the can of corn, his eyes flashing greedily. Finally! I'm crazy with hunger. But the monster jumped out from behind the shelf, scratched his arm with its claws, blood spattered, and the wound was deep enough to see the bone. He roared and fell to the ground. Damn! Luo Li stabbed the monster's carotid artery with a needle of sedative, and black blood surged. She dragged Li Xiu back, and Mu Xue fired to cover, while the woman trembled and handed the medical kit. Luo Li tore off the gauze and pressed the wound. The smell of blood mixed with the smell of disinfectant water made Li Xiu's face twist in pain and his eyes widened. Dr. Luo, save me. This wound should have been infected and rotten. Mu Xue stuffed her backpack 10 cans of corn, 8 packs of medical gauze. After taking the water purifier, she gasped, Success! But Li Xiu. Luo Li bandaged up calmly. Alive. Double the supplies, we can last a week. Everyone's eyes turned from fear to shock. Li Xiu sat up, his voice hoarse. You have hands like lightning, you are amazing. The tires rolled over the broken walls of the ruined city. The tall buildings on both sides looked like the skeletons of giant beasts, and red-eyed ghosts swayed in the windows. The car bumped, and every vibration made Xiao Yi's muttering intensify. He suddenly turned to stare at Li Xiu, his voice as hoarse as a ghost's cry. You want to steal my water, right? There is greed in your eyes. A monster is possessed. Li Xiu's face was ashen. He raised the wrench halfway, then put it down again, shouting, "Boss, are you crazy? We are in the same team." The woman screamed, holding her head and shrinking tighter. Luo Li fronat. This collapse was like a virus spreading fear, and she had to suppress it. Luo Li gathered everyone together and sat around the fire. The poisonous mist billowed outside the camp like a ghost. She demonstrated. Stress is like poisonous mist eroding the mind. Follow me. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds. Feel the heartbeat? 1, 2, 3. She gently touched the woman's pulse with her finger, and the woman closed her eyes. The trembling gradually stopped. When she opened her eyes, tears flashed. "Dr. Luo." The chest is no longer tight, as if there is clean air. Li Xiu tried, his rough breathing became steady, his eyes widened and he growled, "Damn, it works. Boss, you learn." Mu Xue followed with a smile, eyes admiring. This breathing method, the savior of the wasteland. Even Xiaoyi tried, the muttering weakened, everyone was relieved, and the firelight illuminated their tired but united faces. The camp is stable, the warmth of the fire dispels the cold, the smell of corn is fragrant, and the supplies are piled like a hill, which makes the despair of hunger and thirst retreat a little. Returning to the pickup truck, Mu Xue went straight to the ruins. She touched the door lock with her delicate hand, and the runes lit up with blue light. Her fingers flew to enter the code, and the gears clicked like thunder. The stone door slowly opened, dust hit her face and high-tech parts racks flashed inside. Li Xiu rubbed his eyes and murmured, "It's impossible." She opened the quantum lock. This woman is a genius. Luo Li distributed new supplies with strict quotas, 1 more can of corn for each person, but warned, "Save it. Human nature is scarier than monsters." As night fell, they camped next to the supermarket. Knocking down the shelf walls, the fire crackled, and the enticing aroma of roasted corn suppressed the growls of hunger and thirst. The embers of the campfire exploded, and sparks scattered like blood dots, reflecting Xiaoyi's twisted face. The barrel of his gun was pointed directly at Luo Li's eyebrows. The click of the gun was like the whisper of death. The night wind stirred up poisonous mist, bringing the stench of rotting corpses straight into the nose. Li Xiu rolled forward and clamped Xiaoyi's wrist with his thick arms like iron pliers. His roar shook the camp. "Boss! Wake up! You're fucking crazy!" Xiaoyi's eyes were bloodshot. He turned around and hit Li Xiu's nose with his elbow. The bone crack echoed. Li Xiu's blood spurted wildly. The nosebleed was like a red waterfall staining his beard. He staggered back and knocked over the shelves. The canned corn rolled down and made a clanging sound, making a thunderous echo. Mu Xue screamed out of her throat, and veins popped out when she grasped the steering wheel. The woman hugged her knees and huddled up, crying like broken glass. "Don't kill! The monster is coming. We are all doomed." Luo Li's heart felt ashen, and the cold breath of the gun hit her face. Poisonous mist surged around her, the camp was like a tomb, and the pile of supplies turned out to be a joke. The canned corn rolled down into the mud, the compressed biscuit bag tore, the crumbs smelled of mold, and the hungry shadow was like a monster's claws clawing at the heart. Xiaoyi gasped like a beast, and the barrel of the gun trembled and swept through the crowd. "Spies! They are all possessed by fucking monsters." Li Xiu's eyes are greedy for biscuits, and Mu Xue's hands are like stealing. "Luo Li, you are the most vicious. You want to rob the fortress and poison us." His voice tore through the night sky like a piece of silk. Women, the smell of incontinence filled the air, and Mu Xue growled, "Boss, put down the gun. We are teammates." Li Xiu covered his nose and climbed up, his blood dripping to the ground. He loosened his grip on the wrench halfway, and his eyes flashed desperately. "Boss, you have ruined us. The tires haven't been repaired yet, and the roar of the monster is approaching." Despair flooded the camp like a tide. Poisonous mist seeped into the lungs, making people choke and cough again and again, and the distant sewers roared closer and closer, like the gates of hell opening. Luo Li took a deep breath, suppressing the fear that surged in her chest. She stood up slowly, her palms open without weapons, and her voice was like ice cutting. Xiaoyi, look at my eyes. It's not a monster, it's me, Luo Li. Xiaoyi pressed the muzzle forward, veins on his forehead crawling like insects. Get out. Your voice is in my head. Bite. Li Xiu tried to pounce again, but his feet were weak and he knelt down. The smell of blood was mixed with the smell of sweat. He murmured, Dr. Luo. Can't be saved, human nature is rotten. Mu Xue touched the ruin's parts with trembling fingers, and the woman burst into tears. The children, the hungry monsters, all died. The abyss that suppressed her desire to rise was overwhelming. Luo Li stepped forward, the barrel of the gun pressed against her forehead and her forehead was hot. Her eyes were like a deep pool sucking the soul. Remember your dead wife? Xiaoyu, that night before the virus, she grabbed your hand and said, Hold the fortress, don't let the children go hungry. Xiao. Yi's pupils shrank suddenly, the barrel of the gun trembled slightly and he murmured like a ghost, Xiaoyu. She burned. I don't have water. I feel guilty. Luo Li's voice was low and penetrating, and she tapped his pulse with her left hand, feeling her heart beat like a war drum. Childhood, the mine collapsed, your father was pressing down on you and you cried out, Dad, I'm hungry, the monster is eating you. The guilt was like a chain, and he went from the mine to his dead wife, biting you repeatedly. Xiaoyi's face turned pale, the barrel of the gun drooped half an inch, and tears and blood flowed down his temples. The drops dripped onto the gun body and made a sizzling sound. Dad? Xiaoyu. They said I deserved to die. Grab supplies to atone for my sins. Everyone's eyes widened. Li Xiu's nosebleed was still wet, and his voice trembled. Dr. Luo. How do you know about his childhood? This is amazing. Luo Li pressed her fingers lightly on his temples, and her breathing method was like a mantra. Breathe in for 4 seconds, thinking about the darkness of the mine, and Dad's hands are warm. Hold your breath for 4 seconds, and the guilt will disappear like mist. Exhale for 4 seconds, and Xiaoyu's smiling face will appear. Xiaoyi's chest rose and fell violently. The barrel of the gun hit the ground with a bang, causing dust to fly. He hit his knees on the ground and howled like a beast. Xiaoyu. Dad. I'm sorry. I can't hold on. Tears burst out. Mixed blood stained the ground into mud, and the embers of the campfire reflected his collapsed body. Mu Xue rubbed her eyes, her voice trembling like a leaf in the wind. Oh my God! Dr. Luo hit the nail on the head and dug out the inner demons. The boss cried like this. I've never seen him before. Li Xiu crawled closer, his nose bleeding all over his face, his eyes widened and growled. Damn amazing skill! My arm is still hurt, but he came back to life. The woman stopped crying and knelt down with tears in her eyes. Dr. Luo, you heal your crazy mind. We are saved. Luo Li helped Xiaoyi up. He was as limp as a newborn, his eyes changed from blood red to clear, and he murmured, Luo Li, thank you. Human nature is like a monster, I almost destroyed the team. She glanced at everyone, calm as iron. Crash is contagious, materials are locks, people's hearts are keys. Mu Xue, repair the car and ventilate it, the poisonous gas is close. Mu Xue nodded like a drum, holding the relic part. The synthetic rubber module flashed blue. She climbed on the hood of the pickup truck, the wrenches flew and jingled. The gears clicked like thunder. The ventilation fan blades rotated and roared. The hum of filtering poisonous mist drove away the rotten odor, and fresh air poured into the car like sweet rain. Li Xiu's eyes widened and his blood-stained face twisted in admiration. Mu Xue, you are a genius. The quantum lock is opened, and now the ventilation is filtered. The monster gas can't get in. The woman took a breath of clean air, stopped coughing, and her voice trembled. Clean, like heaven. The whole team sat around the embers. Luo Li tore open the can of corn. The tinkling sound echoed in the night sky. The golden corn juice hit his nose, suppressing the growl of hunger and thirst. She redistributed. Half a can of corn, a piece of biscuit, and a quarter of a water bottle to each person. The water tablets dripped into the bottle, and the bubbles purred and smelled clear. Double the ration but save. The fortress is in front, humanity is behind. Li Xiu licked his lips and took it. The smell of corn was tempting. He swallowed, his eyes flashed past the old greed, but he suppressed it and growled. Tu Luo, listen to you. I wanted to rob you just now.
I'm ashamed.
Xiaoyi wiped his tears and clenched his fist. His voice was hoarse and firm. I was wrong. Luo Li, you are a true leader. Speed up, the fortress is waiting for us. Mu Xue gnawed on the corn juice dripping down her chin and smiled brightly. The supplies will last for a week, the tires are reinforced and the ventilation is okay. Dr. Luo, your treatment. The legend of the wasteland. The woman swallowed with tears in her eyes. The child is in heaven, we are united. The firelight illuminated tired faces, morale soared like rockets, everyone's fists touched each other, and the muffled sound shook their hearts. Luo Li stared at the flames and finally opened her mouth to share her pain. Her voice was like broken ice. Before the virus in the hospital ward, I was a doctor. Patients collapsed en masse and committed suicide in waves. An old man grabbed my hand and said, "The monster is in the brain, hunger bites the soul, save me." I was powerless. I saw the rope strangling my neck, blood spurting on the ceiling, and the stench of corpses forever engraved in my mind. That night my trauma took root. Everyone gasped. Angry, Li Xiu's hands trembled. Dr. Luo. You too. No wonder you are so strong. I thought you were invincible. Mu Xue held her arm, her voice choked. The savior is also injured, but you stand up and heal us. Xiaoyi's eyes were filled with admiration. Sharing the trauma makes us stronger. Fortress, let's build a new home. The woman cried. Luo Shen. Take us alive. But at midnight, the red embers of the fire dimmed, and there was a faint roar outside the camp. Xiaoyi suddenly jumped up, grabbed the rifle and pointed the black muzzle at Luo Li. His face was distorted by the firelight, and his eyes were as red as a monster. His voice collapsed and shouted, You are a spy, sent by the monster. Your eyes? Eat our minds. They said you want to poison us, grab us fortress. The barrel of the gun trembled, and the click of the bullet being loaded pierced the silence of the night. Li Xiu woke up and rolled over and Mu Xue screamed, Boss, no. The woman held her head and cried. Luo Li's heart sank, and the campfire burst with sparks. It collapsed like wildfire and burned everyone. But the road ahead suddenly collapsed. A huge crater opened like an animal's mouth. The pickup truck braked hard. The tires screeched against the asphalt, and the rubber cracked and exploded, a tire blowout. The car body skidded and hit the wall. Dust exploded and covered the sky. The rear tires shattered like popcorn. Black smoke billowed, and synthetic rubber fragments flew like shrapnel. Li Xiu put his head over and shouted, Damn it! It's worn out. It's less than 50 kilometers away. The monster roared in the distance like a thunder wave approaching. Its claws scratched the ground and sparks flew, and a black shadow rushed towards it. Mu Xue's face turned pale, and she tapped the instrument with her fingers. What should I do if the parts are used up? Xiaoyi grabbed the gun and jumped out. Hold! Dr. Luo plan. The woman screamed and hugged her knees. Luo Li's eyes narrowed, and she glanced at the remaining light of the ruins. Her heart sank. The crisis has returned, and the test of humanity continues. The body of the pickup truck shuddered violently, and the scream of the rear tire exploding pierced the eardrums like a howl of ghosts and wolves. Black smoke spewed out from the rubber debris. The smell of glue mixed with burnt tar penetrated directly into the nose. Dust exploded like yellow mist, obscuring the vision. Rubbles rolled down from the edge of the giant pit, clanking into the abyss and echoing with muffled thunder. Sparks flickered as the monster's claws scratched the ground in the distance. Black shadows fluttered and approached like a tide, and a low roar shook the chest. Li Xiu's nosebleed was still wet, and the gauze from his arm wound was red. He kicked the car door and jumped out. His thick boots made a loud noise as the broken glass was broken. He pulled the wrench from his belt and swung. Fuck! The tire is stuck and the parts are gone. The monster will eat us in 5 minutes. Xiaoyi's gun barrel swept away the shadows. Sign! The woman hugged her knees and huddled in the back seat. The smell of urine permeated the car. She dug her fingernails into her palms, bleeding, and cried like broken bones. The tire is ruined. Hungry monsters are coming to eat the children. We will become corpses. Mu Xue tapped her fingers on the dashboard, and the heat wave hit her face under the hood. Her face was livid and she growled. The synthetic rubber is used up. The huge pit is blocking the road. There is no way around it. It's all over. A test of human nature, who grabs the water and runs away first. Despair is as thick as poisonous fog. The convoy is stuck in an abyss, and materials are piled up as bait. Canned corn rolls down the bottom of the car, juice soaks in the mud and becomes moldy, and compressed biscuit crumbs are attractively golden but covered with dust. Li Xiu knelt down and pried open the spare tire compartment. The shovel was digging into the earth, and sweat mixed with blood splashed into mud. He was panting like a cow. His eyes flashed past the old greed. The water bottle was at hand, and his throat was rolling and swallowing. I am repairing the tire. Who dares to steal it? Xiaoyi's gun trembled slightly and turned to glare at him. Li Xiu, don't collapse. Dr. Gang Luo, save me. Do you want to do it again? The woman crawled closer to the water bottle, but she retracted her hand halfway, crying tremblingly. Hunger and thirst bite the heart. But Luo Shen said unity. The monster roared closer, its claws scratched the wall, sparks flew, and the smell of rotten corpses hit their noses like a tide. Everyone coughed and their lungs were burning. Luo Li's eyes were like a knife. She grabbed the backpack rope and threw it away. Her voice cut into the night wind. Li Xiu, change the tire, I will cover the surroundings. Mu Xue scanned the ruins. The blue light is flashing. The door lock is close at hand. It is not a ruin, it is a high-tech heritage. Mu Xue widened her eyes, rubbed her eyes and looked again. On the edge of the huge pit under the hidden vines, the ancient metal door flashed rune blue light, like a pulsing heart humming loudly. The muscles in Li Xiu's thick arms bulged, and the wrench hit the iron plate with a clang. He pried out the bad tire, and the rubber fragments scratched his face like shrapnel. Blood dripped down his temples and hit the ground. The hot smell hit his nostrils. The bad tire is jammed. The monster's claw is close, smell the blood. He climbed into the edge of the giant pit. His feet were slippery on the gravel, and he almost fell into the abyss. His roar was shocking. Trembling. Fuck, there's a pile of rotting corpses at the bottom of the pit. The stench is overwhelming, and hunger is like a needle pricking the intestines. Xiaoyi pulled the trigger, and the gun flames flashed and roared. The first mutant dog jumped out, its black hair dripping with pus, its claws tearing the air and roaring. He shot the head with a bullet, and his brain sprayed like red mist. The rotten stench rushed straight to his forehead. Here it comes. Watch the tires. The woman pointed. She yelled to cover her ears. Her fingernails were broken and bloodshot was oozing out. Mu Xue grabbed the rifle and fired. The bullets tore flesh with a muffled sound. The monster's corpse hit the ground and splashed mud. She growled. Relic's door. Rune lock, I try. Luo Li jumped on the roof of the car, swinging the rope like a whip, eyes locked on Mu Xue's back, cold voice. Crack it. There are tire parts inside. Legend of the wasteland. The ruins contain pre-apocalyptic high-tech, spare tires, antitoxic masks, and fuel. But there are many traps and greed will kill people. Li Xiu heard that the wrench was flying and jingling, and he dragged the broken tire to the shore, sweating like rain, his nose bleeding and his eyes blurred. Genius Mu Xue. Hurry. My new tire has no shaft, and monsters are swarming. Mu Xue rushed towards the ruins door. The vines tore and crackled. The runes on the door twisted like living snakes. The blue light reflected her pale face. She touched the cold metal with her fingers and smelled the smell of stale engine oil. She whispered, Rune mechanism. Quantum lock variant. Guluo, the horse symbol, is mixed with the doomsday code. She took out the relic parts from her waist bag, the remaining synthetic rubber module, gritted her teeth and inserted it into the groove. The gears clicked continuously, the door cracked and creaked like a broken bone, and the rotten air emitted a sour chemical smell. Everyone gasped. Li Xiu got up and wiped the blood, shouted with wide eyes. The door is open. It's dark inside, blue light is flashing. There is a treasure. Xiaoyi's gun barrel pointed in front of a warning shadow. Mu Xue, go in and grab it. But be careful, human nature is ugly, ruins eat people. The woman knelt down and prayed, grabbing the dirt with her hands. God opens the door. Is hunger over? Mu Xue took a deep breath and stepped into the door. Her footsteps echoed as hollow as a tomb, and blue light illuminated the shelves. The spare tires were stacked black and shiny. The fuel barrels shone with metallic light, and the antitoxic masks were as crystal clear as ice. She exclaimed ecstatically, Found it! The tires matched the pickup truck, 2 barrels of fuel and 10 masks last a month. But suddenly the floor cracked and cracked. The green liquid in the acid pool boiled and gurgled, and the corrosive smell was like sulfur burning her nose. She slipped and fell, screaming to tear apart the ruins. A trap! Acid eats meat. Luo Li's pupils shrank suddenly. The rope was thrown out like an arrow. The tip of the whip was wrapped around Mu Xue's waist, tightening like an iron plier. She stepped firmly on the roof of the car. Her arm muscles bulged with veins and she roared like thunder. Hold on! Pull you up! Green bubbles splashed from the acid pool, and the sound of corrosion was like meat frying. Mu Xue dug her fingers into the door frame, and her nails broke. Blood spurted out and she gasped. Dr. Luo, help me with the rope. My leg is sore, it hurts like fire. Li Xiu threw down the wrench and rushed over, grabbing the rope with his thick hands to help pull. His muscles bulged like tears and he screamed with blood from his nose. Geniuses can't die. Pull. Xiaoyi covered the shooting, and the gun flame flashed away and rushed into the strange dog. His brains the splashed wall was mottled with red and white. Hard work. The treasure of the ruins belongs to us. The woman climbed out of the carriage, her eyes widened with tears, and her hands trembled as she pointed. Luo Shun pulls people. The rope is like a magic whip. Mu Xue is coming up. Luo Li's waist strength exploded, and the rope swished backwards. Mu Xue rolled to the ground, and the gauze on her legs was burned black. The sour smell lingered on her clothes. She coughed and knelt down, her voice trembling. Dr. Luo, you have the strength, the goddess of war in the wasteland. Take the tires, fuel and masks, take them all. Li Xiu glared like a bell, his bloody face twisted in admiration. Damn, you are a genius in rope rescue. I am still hurting from my arm injury. You are pulling someone like a dog. The team moved frantically. Li Xiu carried the tire on his shoulders. The black rubber pressed against his back, sweat and blood dripped. He smashed the axle to install it. The wrench rotated like thunder. The gears clicked perfectly, and the new tire's air pressure inflated as solid as a rock. It's installed. The pickup truck comes back to life. Mu Xue distributed the mask. The crystal lens buckle on the face started buzzing. The filtered air was as fresh as morning dew, and the fuel was poured into the fuel tank with a loud gurgling sound. She wrapped gauze around her leg injury and glared at Luo Li. You're pulling power. Divine power. I cracked the ruins rune lock like a child's play, but the trap was close to death. You rescued me. Xiaoyi put on his mask, his eyes were fiery. Luo Li, Mu Xue, you two join forces. The convoy is invincible. Supplies are doubled, corn and canned food can be added to support the weak, and the mask protects against gas mist. The fortress is stable. The woman put on her mask, took a breath of clean air, stopped coughing and knelt down in tears. Luo Shan Mu Fairy. The treasures are opened in the ruins, hungry monsters go away. The child is laughing in the sky. Li Xiu tightened the last screw, stood up and wiped the blood with a rough smile. While I was installing it, I heard in the distance the low roar of the corpse tide. The horizon is dark, and thousands of corpses are pouring out. Luo Li tore off the gauze and wiped the scrapes on Li Xiu's arms and legs. The medicine stung. He gritted his teeth and groaned. The blood stopped. Her voice was like a hammer hitting his heart. The team relies on each other, and one person is injured and disabled. Li Xiu, suppress your greed. Xiu, the fetus is like a beast. Mu Xue, the genius, cracks it, never retreats. Xiaoyi, the gunfire escort. The material lock, the key to human nature, missing one death. Li Xiuqiu grasped the fist, his eyes were red, and his voice was trembling like iron in the wind. Luo Tu. Song. I used to steal things and kill people, but now I wake up with a nosebleed. Your treatment, pulling the rope, are amazing. I rely on you, live. Mu Xue leaned against the wall, worshipping like a fire. Dr. Luo, the world view of the ruins has expanded. Door lock runes, ancient civilization, high technology. There are more than monsters in the wasteland, and there are treasures and mysteries. We are in contact with a higher circle, and the fortress may be connected to the ruins network. Xiaoyi punched Li Xiu and the sound shook his heart. Unite the steel. The zombie wave is coming, rush. The tires had just been installed, the engine roared and tried to spin, the pickup truck shuddered and resurrected, and the new tires squeaked firmly on the ground. Suddenly black clouds rolled on the horizon, the tide of corpses surged like a tsunami. The roars of the rotten corpses merged into thunder. The claws and arms waved to blow the sky. The stinky wind blew in the face, and the red eyes of thousands of corpses shone like stars falling. Li Xiu put his head out and yelled, "Here we come! The army of zombies is swallowing up the city." The woman screamed and tightened her mask. Mu Xue stepped on the accelerator, the tires screamed. The pickup truck rushed out of the huge pit. Dust rolled into the sky like a tornado, monster claws roared into the air, and the zombies roared in pursuit and shook the ground. Luo Li held the barrel of the gun steady, her eyes locked on the depths of the ruins ahead. The blue light of the fortress loomed, but the tide of corpses attacked and a new mystery emerged. Why are the ruins connected to the fortress? In a higher circle, what enemy is hidden? The windswept masks in the carriage buzzed, and the team's heartbeats were like war drums. As they fled, their morale burned into an eternal torch. The pickup truck's engine roared like a wild beast, the new tires crushed the rubble on the ruined road. The crunching and popping sounds were mixed with the low roar of the corpse tide. The black and rotten corpses were rolling in the rearview mirror. The broken arm was waving and the air was roaring. The red eyes were as hot as blood beads. The pieces of rotten flesh were thrown away and raised yellow dust mist. The smelly wind penetrated the mask filter, and the buzzing sound was like a swarm of bees devouring the brain. Li Xiu's thick arms gripped the steering wheel tightly. His nosebleeds dried up and cracked, with bright red oozing out. He swerved on the tires to avoid the collapsed steel beam. The car tilted and scraped against the metal, sparks flying on the ground. He screamed and screamed. "Fuck!" A sea of corpses biting the tail. Obstacles are like a forest of knives. Half of the water bottles are sloshing around. There are 8 bottles left and I can't last 2 days. A middle-aged woman huddled in the back seat, her mask lenses condensing. His fingernails dug into the tin of the corn can, and his hands were sticky and moldy with juice. He cried and trembled. The monster claws at the bottom of the car. The children dream of eating corpses. Hunger and thirst burn their throats, so we kill each other for water. Xiaoyi's gun barrel was pushed back. Bullets fired and roared, and the head and rotten brain sprayed red mist and covered the window. He gasped and yelled, "Hang on! The blue light of the fortress is ahead, but the tide of corpses is accelerating, and the legs are bitten off to catch up." Mu Xue knelt beside the hood, dismantling the radiator with flying fingers. The heat wave hit her face like a furnace burning, and the smell of burnt engine oil mixed with sweat filled her nose. She gritted her teeth and inserted into the relic fuel pipe, clicking her teeth to increase the horsepower. The engine roared soaring, and the pickup truck sprang out like an arrow. Tire dust covered the sky, covering the corpse. Optimization is complete. The speed has doubled, but the fuel consumption has increased. Rush to the fortress before the 4 barrels of gasoline burn out. Everyone gasped, and Li Xiu's eyes widened with blood. The smile was thunderous but trembling. Genius Mu Xue. The engine turned into a monster. But there is little water, and the compressed biscuits crumbled into crumbs. Who can't swallow it first? Panic spread like a virus. The middle-aged woman reached out to grab the water bottle. Her hands shook and spilled half of the bottle, peeing the residual smell of the smell mixed with the clear mineral water. She slapped herself in the face and sobbed. Human nature has collapsed. Goddess Luo, save us. We are hungry and thirsty like insects gnawing at the heart. The flame of Xiaoyi's gun flickered, and he turned to glare at the woman. Don't grab it. Dr. Luo is here. Our unity will not be broken. Luo Li sat firmly in the passenger seat and scanned the car with her eyes like cold knives. She tore open the last pack of gauze in the medical bag. The pungent smell of alcohol filled the air. She grabbed the woman's wrist and stopped it like a pincer. Her voice cut through the wind and roared. Kill and panic before the tide of corpses. Close your eyes and listen to me. Take a deep breath of purifying air from the mask. Count your heartbeats from 1 to 10. Repeat. Imagine the blue light of the fortress is not a monster, but the warm fire of home. The woman's eyes widened with tears, her chest heaved and she tried to inhale. The air filtered into her lungs and was as cool as morning dew. She let go of the water bottle with her fingers, and her voice trembled like a candle in the wind. Luo Shan. The heartbeat slowed down, the corpse roared away. Magic. Li Xiu's steering wheel slipped to avoid the boulder, and the car shook. His nosebleed dripped on the dashboard and he closed his eyes for a few breaths. His breathing slowed down and his muscles relaxed. He shouted. Damn it, Mr. Luo is so good at meditating. The sea of corpses in my mind is ebbing. I concentrate on getting around obstacles, pits of steel bars and piles of corpses. They are all in dodge. Mu Xue tapped the engine with her fingers, and the hot iron blistered her hands. She tried to count her heartbeats and her legs were sore. The dull pain of the burn faded away, and he whispered admiringly, "Dr. Luo, the psychological rope, hold the team together. There are 1.5 days left, but don't panic, the chance of survival is doubled." Xiaoyi pulled the trigger and shot the head and followed the rotten dog. His brains splashed in the mirror. He gasped and glared at Luo Li. "Your words are like sedatives, amazing. The mental collapse has been stopped. Everyone is like steel." The roar of the corpse wave shook the ground like thunder. The claws and arms pounced on the car and the tail scratched the metal, sparks flashed. The rotting liquid sprayed and pasted the black shiny rubber of the tires, and the fishy hot stench penetrated the edge of the mask and pungent. The pickup truck raced across a broken bridge in the wilderness, the broken steel cable whipped the air and crackled, and the wreckage of an abandoned gas station emerged in the distance. A rusty oil pump was tilted, the red and white signboard was shattered and swayed in the wind, and the oil drum rolled into a pit and leaked black juice and became moldy. Mu Xue put her head around and yelled, "Gas station! There is not enough fuel in the ruins. Stop to refuel, but the corpse is close, risk it." Li Xiu slammed on the brakes and the tires screamed and locked up. The dust exploded like a wall of fog. The car slid to a stop beside the oil pump. He jumped out of his thick boots and crushed the glass with a crunch. The wrench on his waist jingled. "I'm filling the tank. Hurry, within 5 minutes." Everyone as they filed out of the car. Their masks buzzed to filter out the yellow-green poisonous mist. The woman crouched on her knees and counted her heartbeats. The juice from the canned corn was dripping with mud, and the crumbs of biscuits were stuck in her throat. She murmured, "Luo Shen meditates. I will never die of hunger." Xiaoyi alerted the surroundings and swept the gun barrels, and the bullets were loaded with a crisp click. "The tide of corpses is following. Is there a sniper spot in the gas station?" Suddenly, a black shadow flashed on the roof in the distance. A sniper fire exploded, and the roar of thunder was deafening. The head of the carrion following the leader exploded, and the head exploded like a watermelon, splashing red and white on the roof. The group of corpses stumbled and roared. Li Xiu glared like a bell, and the oil pipe filled the tank with black juice and he roared, "Sniper gun! Who the hell save us?" The second shot rang out, and the rotten dog jumped on the roof of the car with a hole in his eyebrow. The body rolled and hit the ground, splattering with pus-green juice, and the stench was like sulfur burning his nose. Mu Xue was limping with an injured leg, grabbing the rifle to assist in shooting, and turned around in admiration. Woman on the roof, a sniper lone traveler, with a gentle face and a fierce gun. The figure jumped down, her long hair fluttering like a ghost. The metal pipe of the sniper rifle shone coldly on her shoulder. The leather jacket wrapped her body in gentle curves, but the muscles were bulging. Her boots crushed the corpse's head and crunched. Blue eyes locked on the convoy, and his cold voice was as cold as an arrow. "Sun Wan, I see the tide of corpses swallowing you up, so go ahead. The gas station is my territory. Get out or pay air filtration knowledge, join in exchange." Xiaoyi raised his gun slightly, sweat evaporated. "Join? The convoy welcomes combat power, but your sniper? Corpse brains are like tofu." Luo Li glanced at Sun Wan, threw away the rope backpack and put it aside. She tore off the medical gauze and handed it to Li Xiu's injured arm. The medicine was used to stop the bleeding, and her voice was calm and cut the air. "Welcome, Sun Wan. Your gun rescued the escape, and we shared supplies, 14 cans of corn and 8 bottles of water to support the team. But the test of human nature proves loyalty." Sun Wan's nose moved slightly to sniff the oil station. Mold rot, the sniper rifle barrel made a muffled sound on the ground. She squatted to examine the brain. The bullet shell burned her fingers, her gentle face twisted and fierce. "Loyalty? Walking alone in the wasteland for 3 years, I saw the convoy self-destructing. The leader had a nervous breakdown, and they snatched things and killed each other. I heard you Luo Li's psychological treatment? A joke. The inner demons of the doomsday are like viruses, and injections are used to calm the illusion, and they will self-destruct sooner or later. The blue light of the fortress is close. I know the ventilation filter password. But I don't believe in your miraculous doctor. The middle-aged woman's eyes widened, her lips trembled under the mask, and she pointed at the barrel of Sun Wan's gun. A fierce fairy. One shot to save a life. But question Luo Xun? Meditation pulls my heart. I'm not afraid of corpse roars. Li Xiu pulled out the oil pipe and dripped black juice, wiped the blood with his thick arm and shouted in admiration. Sister Su, sniper god! But Luo leader pulled the rope to save me. Mu Xue, cure my nosebleeds and awaken my humanity. Try her meditation. The tide of corpses will not scare you. Mu Xue optimized the engine hood and clicked, her leg hurt. She limped close to Sun Wan and whispered. From an engineering perspective, Sun Wan's knowledge is worth $1,000. The filtration system, the fortress needs you. But Dr. Luo cracked the heart lock. Just like I broke the ruins rune, count your heartbeats before questioning. Sun Wan's blue eyes narrowed, and she turned around with the sniper rifle on her shoulder. The boot kicked the corpse and the arm broke. She took a deep breath in the mask and tried to close her eyes and count her breaths from 1 to 10. Her heartbeat slowed down like a drum. The roar of the distant corpse was as faint as the hum in the background. Her pupils shrank suddenly and she opened her eyes. Her hand trembled and her grip on the gun relaxed. Her voice trembled like iron in the wind. This ghost thinking is like a filter, clearing the brain of poisonous fog. 3 years in the wasteland on the verge of collapse, your treatment. Is it true? But I have seen too many false gods, and the wave of suicides after spiritual injections. Luo Li grabbed Sun Wan's shoulders like a pincer, and his eyes were like knives in the heart. True or false corpse tide certificate. Join Teach Filtering Fortress Blue Light Relic Talisman. The text hides a bigger mystery. If you doubt it, I will prove it. Sun Wan gasped and smiled. Her gentle face melted with fierceness. She swung the sniper rifle and got into the car. Deal. Give the gun to the team. Filter the knowledge and exchange it for a sip of water. Share the corn with me, and I will be hungry and thirsty for 3 years. The team burst into cheers, and Li Xiu carried the oil barrel into the car, sweating. The blood flow ticked and roared. Sister Su joins the team. Sniper and meditate, invincible. Xiaoyi fisted Sun Wan's gun barrel, and the muffled sound shook his heart. The leader approves. The supplies are expanded. The fortress home is close. The women knelt down to share the biscuits. The crumbs were golden and dry but warm in the mouth. Luo Shenla is new, Su Xian is the gunmaster. The engine of the pickup truck roared again, and Sun Wan sat in the backseat and taught. Fortress ventilation, pre-apocalyptic quantum filter. Poisonous mist like acid rain. It needs to be mixed with ruins parts, and it can be stable when surrounded by the zombie tide. Mu Xue stared in admiration. Geniuses join forces. Runes are connected to the network, the engine is optimized and filtered, and the speed cannot be lost. The convoy continued to drive wildly. The tires crushed the corpse arm and broke the bones, and the zombie tide receded with a low roar. The inventory of supplies revealed that half of 8 bottles of water were sloshed, 6 packages of biscuits were broken, and 14 cans of corn were on the verge of mold. Li Xiu swallowed hard. There are 1.5 days of water left, and the compressed biscuits will satisfy my hunger, but Sister Su has a gun to protect me, so there are more opportunities to seize the station. Luo Li distributed the last 4 packages of gauze. The sedative needle was hidden in his arms, and his voice was heartbreaking. Dependence expands and humanity is locked. Sun Wan, your doubts are like a mirror, showing that the team is weak. Sun Wan's blue eyes were fiery, and her hand trembling when holding Luo Li. Before the mirror was broken, the doctor proved to be a miracle. I believe 3 points, and the tide of corpses will see the true sign. The night suddenly fell like ink pouring down. The stars were dim and the moon was blood red. The pickup truck's light beam pierced the darkness and swept through the ruins. The engine overheating alarm screamed and pierced. The heat wave spewed tar from under the cover and burned the nose. The speed suddenly slowed down and trembled and locked up. Li Xiu slammed on the tires and slicked the mud. The dust exploded and turned on the lights. His nosebleeds returned and he yelled, "Fuck!" The engine overheated and shut down. The purity of the relic fuel is low and the cooler is burned out. The red eyes of the corpse tide reappeared in the rearview mirror. The black sea surged and its claws swung into the sky. The roaring thunder was close at hand, and the poisonous fog oozed yellow and green, and the mask was buzzing and overloaded. Sun Quan sniped at the top window of the tube, and the flames flashed, but the corpses were endless. Surrounded. Thousands of heads are coming. Filtering knowledge for later use. Luo Li, your treatment, now save the heart. The middle-aged woman screamed and her heart beat wildly, and the woman burst into tears. The corpses swallowed the car at night. Luo Li good. The hot iron on the hood of Mu Xue was blistering. Li Xiu's wrench was flying and clanging. Xiao Yi's gun flames were sweeping wildly. Luo Li's eyes were locked on the pulsing blue light of the fortress in the depths of darkness, but the wall of corpses attacked, the engine black smoke sprayed into the sky, the team's heart beat and drummed, and the desperate situation came again. The black smoke from the engine spewed out like a column of hellfire. The tar burned into the nose and throat and penetrated the mask filter, and the buzzing and overload screamed like thousands of bees gnawing at the ears. The light beam of the pickup truck trembled and swept through the night. The sea of red-eyed corpses surged around, the black waves of carrion rolled. The severed claws swung into the sky and cut the air and howled. The pus-green poisonous mist sprayed from the corpse's mouth and filled the air with thin yellow-green clouds. The sour and putrid gas seeped through the cracks and burned the lungs and heart. Li Xiu's thick arm smashed the hood with a loud clang, and the wrench flew to remove the radiator residue. The hot iron scalded his skin and flesh bubbled and emitted white smoke. His nosebleeds came back and dripped red on the dashboard. He yelled, trembling like a broken string. Fuck! The purity of the relic fuel is low, and it burned through the cooling pipe. It will take 10 minutes to repair, but the corpse claws have already grabbed the tire. The water bottle is scattered. Whoever grabs the life will die. A middle-aged woman huddled in the back seat, digging her fingernails into the tin of the corn can. The juice splashed on her hands and became sticky with mold. She screamed and pushed Sun Wan's legs, her voice cracking. Give me water. I am hungry, thirsty and heartburning, and my child's corpse dreamed of eating me. You sniper fairy swallowed the gun alone, get away. The ugliness of human nature exploded. The woman grabbed Sun Wan's belt water bottle, and the belt pinched the flesh with bleeding marks. Sun Wan's blue eyes flashed fiercely, and the sniper rifle barrel pressed against the woman's head with a cold and muffled sound. Robbing? I saw the convoy self-destructed in the wasteland in 3 years. Kill the same kind first. The flames of Xiao Yi's rifle flashed wildly, and the bullets roared and blasted into the head. The red mist covered the window. He panted and turned to glare at the woman. The barrel of the gun trembled slightly and shouted, Stop! The unity is shattered. We are all dead. But the panic virus spread. The heat wave of the hood of Mu Xue hit her face and her sweat evaporated. Her legs were injured and burned and she knelt down. The wrench clanked when she knocked on the pipe, but her hands shook. Falling metal sludge. The cooler is broken, there are no parts. The tide of corpses bites the tail. The mask is overloaded with poisonous fog. My heart is beating wildly. Dr. Luo, help! The car body trembles with the roar of zombies. The claw arm hits the tail. The iron sheet scratches and sparks flash. The black and shiny rubber of the tire is sprayed with corrosion and hisses, and the red-eye window is grinding like a sawbone. The middle-aged woman burst into tears and pushed Sun Wan to grab the water bottle. With trembling hands, she sprinkled half a bottle of mineral spring water mixed with the residual smell of urine and mud. She slapped herself in the face and cried, Humanity is rotten. Where is the goddess of Luo? The sea of corpses will swallow them. Hungry and thirst kill them first. Sun Wan sniped and shot the leader of the giant corpse, and the watermelon exploded in the head and splashed red and white on the lamp, but the crowd of corpses was endless. Come, her blue eyes flashed with fear and growled. Luo Li, your illusion of meditation. The demon in your heart is like a poisonous mist. It self-destructed after the injection. I believe 3 points, now collapsed. At the team's peak of despair, Xiao Yi's gun barrel jammed. He knelt down and punched the bottom of the car, crying, The leader is useless. The spirit is broken. The dream of homeland for zombies. Luo Li's eyes were like cold knives cutting through the darkness. She jumped up from the passenger seat and grabbed the rope to throw away the medical bag. The pungent alcohol filled the air to suppress the putrid smell. She used iron clamps on her wrists to stop the woman from snatching her. Her voice struck her heart like thunder and fog. Panic killing precedes the tide of corpses. Everyone close their eyes. Listen to me. It's not about counting heartbeats. It's about locking the heart with hypnosis. Everyone stared and trembled. The middle-aged woman pushed her hands to release the kettle. Her lips turned white and she murmured, "Luo Shen, corpse claws grabbing the heart hypnosis? What a joke." Sun Wan shot the top window of the sniper tube and shot the head again. The pus from the 3 corpses sprayed her leather clothes sticky, and she turned around to taunt the blue-eyed fire. "Wasteland miracle doctor? I've seen my sister's corpse dream a lot, and the wave of suicides after acupuncture prove it, otherwise the gun will ring first." Li Xiu's wrench flew with hot iron and the blood was hot. He gasped and glared at Luo Li. "Boss? I have nosebleeds that burn my brain, but I am awesome at hypnosis, but the sea of corpses bites me." Mu Xue knelt on the ground with pain in her legs, and tapped the broken engine pipe with her fingertips. "Dr. Luo, my heart is broken." Xiaoyi's gun jammed, and he punched the ground with bloody flesh and shouted, "The team is ruined, and my leader's dream is shattered." Wanting to be strong before suppressing her desire, Luo Li took a deep breath of the purifying air from her mask. Her chest rose and fell, her eyes locked on each person's pupils. Her voice was as low as a spiritual hook piercing her brain. "Listen to my trauma on the first night of the apocalypse. My sister was infected with red eyes and turned into a corpse. She clawed at my arm and tore the flesh to the bone. She cried out, 'Sister, save me,' but bit her throat and spurted blood. I watched her fall, and my mind kept shouting, 'Powerless.'" The team gasped, and the middle-aged woman's eyes widened with tears, and she held down the kettle with trembling hands. "Luo Shunhertz? My sister's corpse is like my child." Sun Wan sniped at the tube, her blue eyes suddenly shrank and trembled. "You are in pain? I've been alone for 3 years and I'm on the verge of collapse, and no one knows." Luo Li grabbed everyone's shoulders and rotated the iron pincers, and the rope was swung around the carriage. She murmured a hypnotic rhythm, "Cut the corpse and roar. Breathe deeply, filter the air, and count my words. Imagine that my sister's red eyes are not hate, but a hunger and thirst for forgiveness. Release the powerlessness and turn into an iron will. The inner demons are broken and reborn." The woman's chest rises and tries to inhale, and the buzzing clean air enters the lungs and cools her. She loosens the corn can with her fingers, and her voice trembles like a broken candle rekindled. "Luo Shan's trauma. The heartache is like a knife being pulled out. The corpse roars far away, my dream is warm." Li Xiu stopped the wrench with his thick arms, closed his eyes and spoke a few words to stop the bleeding from his nose, and his muscles bulged and roared, "Damn it! Hypnosis is like a rope pulling on my mind. I can't help but dream to pieces, sister. I'm biting my leg and releasing it. Fix the engine, keep your hands steady." He stared with blood in his eyes. The wrench clinked and bit into the temporary pipe. The hot iron welded and sizzled, and the engine roared to life. The pain in Mu Xue's leg was faint, and her pupils flashed with admiration. She jumped up and grabbed the iron frame on the roof of the car. The rifle was disassembled with a click. Her fingers were flying and welded the machine gun mount, and the relic parts were inserted into the turntable. Sun Wan's blue eyes were hot and trembling. She shot the giant corpse at the top of the wave with her sniper gun. The red mist on the brain evaporated. She growled, "The trauma is revealed. I believe you 70%. Open the way with the gun. Don't swallow the poisonous mist." She pulled the trigger and blasted 10 heads in a row. The rotten corpse stumbled and roared, and the cracks in the pus-green cloud were exposed. The barrel of Xiaoyi's gun clicked loudly. He stood up with steely eyes, punched the roof of the car and thundered, "Hypnosis is reborn. Leader, I'm back. Listen to the order." Sun Wan sniped the left wing. Li Xiu's engine ran at full speed. Mu Xue's machine gun swiped right. The woman guarded the water. Luo Li locked the heart. Breaking through the fortress blue light. The team roared like a beast awakening. The middle-aged woman knelt down and broke the cookie crumbs, golden and dry and warm in the mouth. She burst into tears and worshipped. "Luo Shen hypnosis. Humanity lock, grab water crime." The engine roared soaring, the pickup truck's tires screamed, and mud and dust exploded into the wall of fog. Li Xiu's thick arms gripped the steering wheel, and his nosebleed was dry and red. He skidded sideways to avoid the corpse, his arms whipped and the car body tilted. The metal scraped and sparks flew. "Cooling temporary welding, hold on for half an hour. The fuel consumption is crazy, and there are 3 of the 5 barrels left." The machine gun turntable on the roof of Mu Xue's car buzzed. Bullets rained down and roared like a thunderstorm. The corpse's chest exploded with blood holes in the fountain, and severed limbs flew into the sky. The car was sticky, her legs were limping, and she shouted, "Modified! Double the firepower! The sea of corpses will burst!" Sun Wan's sniper fire made a series of muffled thunders. A hole was pierced between the eyebrows, and the red eyes were extinguished. The wave of corpses collapsed and stamped on her, and she roared, her blue eyes locked on the glass trembling voice. "Hypnosis makes me walk alone in pain, and I am not alone in the wasteland. Miracle doctor!" The poisonous fog, yellow and green clouds, the car buzzes and overloads, burns the lungs. The claws of the corpse hit the window and the teeth grind, and the tires are hissed by rotting liquid. But the hypnosis locks the heart, and the team is not afraid. Xiaoyi directed the gun flames to fire, and the headshot followed the rotten dog, and the brain splashed into the mirror. He gasped and punched Luo Li's shoulder with a muffled sound. "Your trauma is like fire waking up the leader. Turn left to break the bridge. The blue light is approaching." The pickup truck rushed through the sea of corpses. The tires crushed bones and burst. Flesh and blood sprayed. Yellow dust and fog covered the sky. The poisonous gas area gradually thinned and the clean air entered the lungs to cool down. The roar of corpses resounded far away, and the red-eyed waves roared behind with broken arms waving in the air. After breaking out of the siege, the road was bloody, the car body was scratched and the iron sheet was curled, and half of the supplies were scattered. 3 water bottles were broken and 4 bottles were left clear and simmering. 7 corn cans were smashed and the edges of the juice were moldy. 7 packages of biscuits were torn, leaving 3 dry and golden packages. 2 packages of gauze were consumed and 2 were left, and a sedative needle fell off and broke. Li Xiu's throat swallowed his saliva and laughed thickly. "Half the loss but life. Hypnosis is awesome, grab water and kill people." The middle-aged woman broke up the biscuits without shaking her hands, worshipped Luo Li and knelt at Luo Li's feet. "Sister Luo Shun hurts. Pull our hearts, hunger and thirst will not kill." The gray light of dawn pierced the blood moon, and the pickup truck jolted to a stop at the end of the ruined bridge. The outline of the fortress emerged. A reinforced concrete monster stood tall. Blue light pulsated in the cracks in the wall like a heartbeat. The iron door was locked and rusty runes shone faintly green, and the shadow of a distant corpse was not chased but a low roar echoed. The team panted and got out of the car. They took off their masks and took a deep breath of the moldy air in the wilderness. Sun Wan squatted with a sniper tube on her shoulder to check for tire corrosion. Her blue eyes scanned the Luo glass and trembled. "Escape from the poisonous area and unite with Chugang your hypnosis. 9 points of trust. Filtering knowledge teaches. Fortress quantum network needs relic parts to mix, but the door lock rune, I try to crack it." Mu Xue limped with an injured leg and clicked the machine gun mount, and her fingers flew to count the gasoline. There were 3 barrels of black juice left. The modification was successful, the firepower was upgraded. 4 bottles of water to last a day, 7 cans of corn to share, and 2 packs of gauze to prepare for the battle. Li Xiu wiped the blood from his thick arm and smiled. "The engine is welded firmly, and the tire is half-eaten but biting the ground. The new home is near." Luo Tuer's magic rope pulling. Xiaoyi's gun barrel made a dull sound. The steely eyes met Luo Li's fist. "The leader is reborn. Thank you for sharing the trauma. The team is not broken, and the humanity is locked." The middle-aged woman hugged her knees and broke the biscuits, and said in a warm voice, "Luotian hypnosis warms the heart. Su Xianmaid's gun opens the way. Hunger will not die." Luo Li threw away the rope backpack, tore off the gauze to wrap Li Xiu's new injury, and used potion to stop the bleeding and alcohol to sting his nose and suppress mold and rot. Her eyes scanned the fortress blue light and calmed the cutting wind. Short repairs, inventory upgrades. Hypnosis locks the heart, unity is like steel. Sun Wan's snipers, Mu Xue's machine gun, Li Xiu's engine, and Xiaoyi's command, half of their strength is lost, but their humanity is stronger than their hunger and thirst. Everyone sat in the dust, eating corn juice that was sweet and sticky in the mouth. A small sip of water was refreshing and moisturizing, and the cracked biscuits were dry but warm to the stomach. Sun Wan taught filtration tips, murmured the quantum network formula, and Mu Xue tapped the rune sketch with her fingers to admire. Geniuses join forces, the door lock will be broken. Li Xiu carried the oil drum into the car and jingled, His nose was bleeding and scabbed and laughed. After repairs, crushed the corpse into the fortress. The team's morale was fiery, the laughter was suppressed by the low roar, and the brief silence was like a breath before a storm. Suddenly, the pulsation of blue light intensified deep in the iron gate of the fortress, and strange spiritual whispers penetrated the brain like worms. Enter, healing, collapse feast. There were waves of inhuman voices, twisted laughter and crying, green runes flashed wildly in the cracks of the wall. Red-eyed corpses suddenly appeared in the distant wilderness. The Black Sea reunited, claws and arms waved into the sky, and rotten roars gathered and thunder approached. Sun Wan's blue eyes suddenly narrowed as she sniped at the upper shoulder. Psychic language? Attract monsters. If the door lock is not broken, they will all die. The middle-aged woman hugged her knees and trembled. Luo Xun. Ghost words in the head, hypnosis to save. Luo Li's eyes were cold and she locked the door, holding the rope tightly. The crisis suddenly rose like a knife hanging from the neck. In front of the iron gate of the fortress, the gray light of dawn filled the air like deathly ashes. The pulsing blue light in the cracks in the wall accelerated like the twitching of a dying heart. The green runes flashed wildly and the dazzling green light burned the omentum, and the twisted whispers were like 1,000 insects squirming through the brain. Enter, healing, collapse feast, gluttony to feed your fears. The sound was inhuman, a mixture of laughter and crying, distorted eardrums buzzing. A black corpse with red eyes appeared in the far wilderness. The roar of rot merged into a thunder wave and rolled closer. The broken claws waved the sky, the wind howled, and the pus-green poisonous mist was ready to be sprayed thinly with the pre-flavor of sour rot to burn the nose. The engine of the pickup truck is roaring and waiting for smoke, and the machine gun dial on the roof is buzzing and ready to fire, but the 3 barrels of oil drums are dripping with black juice. The ground is rusty and pitted, and half of the tires are corroded and have cracks in the rubber as deep as knife marks and biting into the mud. Sun Wan held the sniper rifle on her shoulder. Her blue eyes suddenly shrunk into needles, and the gun barrel made a cold and muffled sound on the door. She turned around and scanned the black waves of the sea of corpses. The rotting flesh was rolling and pus was splashing on the ground, and her voice trembled like a candle in the wind. The words of the soul penetrate directly into the brain, attracting the corpse tide like magnets. I have tried the door lock rune. Quantum entanglement, no relic parts. No damage within half an hour, swallow it all. Luo Li, your hypnosis can't lock this ghost language. I have been alone for 3 years, and it always echoes in my mind. The sniper is about to collapse. She pulled the trigger with her finger and fired, and the bullet roared into the corner and the rusty iron sparks flew, but the green rune only flashed twice. Turning off the light again, blue eyes flashed with fear and growled. Waste! The runes are backfired, the barrel is hot. The middle-aged woman hugged her knees and huddled in the back of the car, her hands trembling with sticky juice from the can of corn. She dug her fingernails into the mud and screamed with tears. Goddess of Luo! The ghost whispers the name of my child's corpse. The demons of hunger and thirst are rekindled. For bottles of water. If it's not evenly divided, I'll split my throat first. Robbery. Humanity is rotten. She grabbed Sun Wan's leather boots and pushed them with force like a wild animal. Sun Wan's fierce blue eyes flickered and she kicked away with a dull sound. The cold barrel of the gun pressed against the woman's forehead. The rule of the wasteland is that the one who grabs the water will be killed first. Bear with it, or you will shoot into the sea of corpses. Li Xiu carried the oil drum jinglingly on his thick arms and got into the car. His nose was bleeding and the scabs were red and dripping on the iron sheet. He opened his bloody eyes and scanned the door lock runes. The wrench flew and knocked on the iron door. Rusty chips flew out and mixed with pungent rust, mold and rot. Fuck! The ventilation pre-check has been broken. The poisonous mist inside the door has solidified like glue, blocking the quantum filter. The net needs parts to be welded, but the claws of the corpse are nearly 300 meters away, and the tires can't bite and they run wildly. The boss is hypnotized and he pulls the rope, but the ghost's words are burning his brain, and my hands are shaking and I can't repair it. His throat was rolling and he was gasping for breath. He punched the car door and was shaking with thunder. The engine roared and black smoke spewed out and burned his throat. Xiao Yi's rifle clicked loudly, but his eyes were steely as he scanned the team. He held the barrel of the gun in his fist and shouted at Baijia. The leader has just woken up from a dream. This fortress is a trap. The blue light pulses like a heart, and the inner demon explodes when entering, guarding the gate. The sea of corpses is endless, with half a box of ammunition left. The dream of breaking through is broken. He turned to Luo Li, his voice cracked with ridicule. Hypnotizing miracle doctor, trauma sharing wakes us up. Where is the sister in your head? Prove the door is broken, otherwise the team will be broken up, and the lock on humanity will be loose. Mu Xue knelt down in front of the door with her injured leg. Her fingers were flying as she pried the metal around the edges of the runes, scratching her ears and squeaking. The relic parts were flung out of her bag and jingled to the ground. Her sweat evaporated and mixed with mud. Her pupils trembled and she murmured, "Quantum runes are entangled and complicated, but Sun Wan's know-how is missing. Filtering chip ghost words are like electric current. Is it still safe for me to modify the machine gunner? Dr. Luo, my heart lock can't hold on, and my leg pain is coming back." The zombies roared closer. The red-eyed waves stepped on the bones and crunched, and the poisonous fog and yellow-green clouds pre-burned the mask, and the overload alarm was blaring. At the team's peak of despair, a middle-aged woman pushed Sun Wan and then grabbed a water bottle. Her hands shook and the cold mud splashed on the ground. She slapped herself in the face and cried, "Hunger and thirst kill the first ghost." Luo Shun's hypnotic illusion. The door can't be broken and the whole body is dead. Sun Wan. With blue eyes, he held the gun to the woman's head. He pressed the phone half-pressed and said, "Shut up. Whoever robs you will die, and the sea of corpses will obey." Li Xiu dropped his wrench and punched his chest, groaning. Weakness comes again, hypnotic. Luo Li's grip on the rope was as tight as an iron whip. Her eyes flashed wildly with cold blades cutting green talismans. She took a deep breath of clean air from her mask to hum and whisper, her chest heaving and shuddering. Panic feeds the ghost whispers, and you will die first from internal fighting. Everyone took 3 steps back, closed their eyes and locked their hearts. Recall hypnosis steel. Ghost words are invincible. They are the phantom of hunger and thirst. Everyone trembled and backed away, and the middle-aged woman's lips turned white and she murmured, "Luo Shun, the child's corpse is hungry? Try it." But Sun Wan sniped at the fire with lowered blue eyes. Borderline hypnosis? Ghost words are boring me to walk alone. Did you give me an injection before the sniper collapsed? What a joke. Luo Li ignored it, swung the rope around Mu Xue's fingers, gripped her shoulders with iron pincers and murmured a ghostly rhyme. Breathe the moldy air deeply and count the runes to flash 3 times. Imagine that the chip is not locked. It is a hunger and thirst for forgiveness. Let go of the pain in your legs and use your willpower. Mu Xue's pupils shrank suddenly. Her fingers stopped trembling and started flying again. The relic parts embedded in the rune seams made a clanking sound. She knelt down with a limp and trembled. "Dr. Luo, open the heart lock, align the chip. Quantum entanglement is solved." The green runes flashed and then brightened dazzlingly. The gears of the iron door turned with a loud creak and rusty particles rained down on the skin, and the blue light surged with a cold, moldy smell that hit the face and pressed the lungs. However, the door slowly opened a gap of half a meter, and the inner hall was as dark as a tomb. The blue light pulsed weakly in the walls, and the whispers of the soul exploded over and over again like thousands of ghosts crying and laughing. Sun Wan's blue eyes widened and she trembled. "It's broken. The geniuses of Mu Xue have joined forces. Xi and Luo Li is 11 points in hypnosis, and 3 points are weak in ghost language." She rushed in with the gun on her shoulder, and the sniper fire swept away the shadows in the hall with sparks flying. Li Xiu pushed the door with his thick arms and the iron pliers were thundering. He stared at Mu Xue with a bleeding nose and shouted in admiration. "Fuck! God of parts welding, his hands are like machines. I'm going to check the ventilation." The team filed in and the gear behind the door clicked tightly. The woman hugged her knees and knelt in the corner of the hall, breaking biscuits into pieces that were dry and sticky in her mouth. Tears welled up in her eyes and she knelt down on Luo Li, her feet trembling. The rope of the goddess of Luo locks the heart. Human nature is immortal. Endure hunger and thirst. The ruins in the hall are crumbling. The steel frame is rusty and dripping with red water. The fragments of the quantum screen are shining blue. The air is thick with mold and rust, and the pungent smell is like a knife scraping the lungs. Li Xiu carried a wrench in his thick arm and broke into the ventilation shaft. The black hole abyss was buzzing and the wind was howling. His probe light beam flickered and swept. The filter was clogged with rotten flesh and yellow-green pus glue stuck to the wall. The poisonous mist remained sour and rotten and burned his eyes. He retreated and coughed up blood and sputum. He yelled. Severe blockage. The quantum filter was broken in half. The rotten corpses imploded and stuffed. He suffocated to death for 3 days without any parts. Nosebleeds burned his brain, and he was unable to recover from his dream. He punched the wall of the well with a muffled sound and rusty debris flying, and he knelt down gasping for breath. Xiaoyi swept the corner of the hall with his rifle, but his eyes were steely and trembling. I'm here to guard, search for supplies, but the ghost whispers that the leader is dead, the ammunition magazine is half empty, and the dream is broken. He kicked open the residual cabinet. Dust burst into mold and choked his throat. The iron cans of dry food inside rolled out and piled up with golden compressed biscuits, and the ammunition box was full of rusty and jingling magazines. Mu Xue picked up the remaining crystal in the corner of the hall with a limp leg. The quantum fragments in the castle flashed green. Her fingers flew to dismantle the door-lock talisman, and the filter parts were inserted into the impromptu welding click. Her pupils were adoring and whispered, "The filter chip is successful. The ventilation is welded firmly. Dr. Luo's hypnosis is as precise as a rope." Sun Wan's blue eyes glanced at the entrance of Li Xiu's well. The pain of walking alone faintly reappeared. Her sniper rifle drooped and shook, and the old wounds under the leather jacket were sticky with blood. She growled, "Battle trauma." The wound exploded, and the ghost whisperer had been walking alone for 3 years, dreaming of a pile of corpses, and his hands were shaking and he couldn't aim accurately. "Luo Li, give me an injection or hypnosis. Otherwise the sniper will be useless." The middle-aged woman divided the rations. Her hands were shaking, and she pushed Sun Wan on her legs and taunted. "Fairy is fierce? She is shaking like a hungry child when she grabs water." Sun Wan, with fierce blue eyes, pointed the gun at the woman's head and muffled, "Shut up. The wasteland sniper collapses. Everyone is dead." The cracks in the team reappeared, and the ghost whispers reappeared, and her brain was buzzing. Luo Li's eyes locked Sun Wan's pupils with cold eyes, and the rope threw away the medical bag. The potion and alcohol stung the nose and pressed the mold and rot. She grabbed Sun Wan's arm with iron pincers to stop the bleeding, and stabbed the brain with a low hook. "Close your eyes and listen to the trauma. Walking alone is painful, not hate. It is hunger and thirst for companionship. Release the 3-year corpse dream. Turn the steel iron aim." Sun Wan's blue eyes suddenly shrunk as she took a breath. Her chest heaved and trembled and she murmured, "Luo Shun. It hurts like a knife, and the pile of corpses swallows the girl's dream again?" Luo Li opened her old wounds. The skin was open, the flesh was red, the flesh was everted, and the pus was simmering, and the injection was pushed into the veins to cool and burn the pulse with a hypnotic rhythm. Cutting ghost words. Imagine aiming without killing, forgiving the hungry corpses. The inner demons are broken, and the sniper god is reborn. Sun Wan steadied her sniper tube on her shoulder, her blue eyes shining brightly. She jumped up to the broken light on the roof of the test-firing hall, exploding with glass and making a loud sound as the rain fell. She roared in admiration and trembled. "Trauma removal. Hypnosis needle god. Your hands are as steady as iron. And ghost words are far away. Perfect faith. Gun to protect the fortress." Li Xiu stared at Su Wan. His thick arms jumped into the well and banged the wrench on the rotten glue. The parts were welded into the filter and smoke was coming out. "Sister Su is reborn. I'll follow you. The ventilation is half clear, and the air is 3 cents clean." Xiaoyi commanded the division of labor, and the flames of his rifle assisted the deep shadows in the hall. He punched the cans of dry food and distributed golden biscuits with a muffled sound, which warmed his stomach. "Guard me and search for supplies. 30 packs of dry food to last a month, 500 rounds of ammunition doubled, 5 barrels of water wells clean, clear and mold-free, and 10 packs of gauze ready. Fight." The initial shelter is built on an angle steel frame, and the shifts are fixed. The team sat around in the dust and took stock of the supplies. 3 packs of compressed biscuits plus 30 to last 1 month, 7 cans of corn to warm the belly, 4 bottles of water plus 5 barrels for full months, 3 barrels of gasoline to save consumption, and double the amount of medical sedatives to refill. Luo Li circled the ground with ropes and her voice was heart-pounding. Shift anti-collapse. Sun Wan ranked first in sniping the patrol hall, Li Xiu ventilated in second, Mu Xue's parts third, Xiaoyi guarded the door fourth, I locked the heart in fifth and women shared food sixth. Ghost words feed fear hypnotic rotation, human steel lock. Everyone gasped, and the middle-aged woman knelt down to break the biscuits and worshipped without shaking hands. Luotian shift God. Hunger and thirst are eliminated, and humanity is warm. Li Xiu laughed. The boss has made a rule, the nose bleeding will stop, and the wind will be stable. Sun Wan's blue eyes scanned the broken screen on the hall wall. The top of the sniper tube pried open the hidden cabinet and clicked, and the blue light projected on the fortress map appeared. The steel maze marked the antidote laboratory with red dots deep underground, and the winding runes flashed. She trembled passionately. Got the map. The antidote room is close, the source of the virus may be cured. But the source of ghost language is underground, and monsters are lurking. The team's morale was slightly ignited, but they were suppressed like a cloud, and the ghost whispers and laughter were repeated and brain-burning. After Li Xiu finished welding the ventilation shaft, the filter started to buzz and the purified air flowed into the lungs to suppress mold and rot. He wiped the sweat with his thick arms and smiled. The filter is stable and the air can be breathed. At dawn the poisonous fog receded, the sun was as dazzling as a knife, the pickup truck engine roared, the tires crunched on the glass, the convoy accelerated, and the wind swept the ruins and dust hit our faces. Mu Xue held the steering wheel as steady as a rock. The ventilation fan buzzed to filter the air, and the fresh smell filled the car. The gauze on Li Xiu's arm was bleeding but he grinned. Boss, the fortress is close. Monsters get out. Xiaoyi was on guard with a gun, his eyes clear. United invincible. Luo Li sat back, backpack supplies pressed on her shoulders. The smell of corn biscuits lingered on her lips and teeth, and a warm current surged in her heart. The team transformed from collapse to steel. Red light flashed like a rain of blood on the ceiling of the hall, dazzling like 1,000 needles pricking the omentum and buzzing, and the system alarm tore the eardrums like thousands of ghosts screaming. Invasion. Dozens of mutants. Collapse feast, gluttonous soul. The ground shook violently. Dust rustled like rain and hit the shoulders, and the black hole deep in the wall exploded with thunder and rotten flesh. Broken bones splashed with turquoise juice, scorching the rusty pits on the ground, and strange figures with red eyes jumped out of corpses. The limbs were twisted like molten wax human figures. The four-clawed hook bones scraped against the metal and squeaked harshly. My heart is broken. The first head hit the hall wall. The steel frame bent and made a muffled sound. The red eyes locked on the middle-aged woman. She hugged her knees and screamed, bloodshot from her throat. The corn can rolled down, sticky with juice, and her hands trembled as she pushed Sun Wan's legs. Roshan's shift is broken. The monster eats the heart, and the hungry child eats me first. Sun Wan's blue eyes' fierce fire exploded on the sniper tube. Pulling the trigger, she pulled the trigger and fired a roaring headshot, flames and blood splashing against the wall, but the alien figure only swung its claws and scratched her leather jacket, tearing the blood and leaving hot traces of blood. She stepped back and staggered, roaring and trembling. I've seen this thing in piles of corpses after walking alone for 3 years. If I don't get this thing, I'll die without a headshot. Ghost words are drilling into my brain. Aiming is shaking. Luo Li, hypnosis can't save the sea of beasts. Li Xiu rushed through the tunnel with a wrench in his thick arm. The red-eyed waves of the black hole abyss surged. The putrid yellow mist hit his face, burned his lungs, coughed up blood, and phlegm fell to the ground. Mu Xue has fast parts, but his childhood dream of a mine. His father's body was crushed and dark, his hands were shaking like mud. He punched his chest and knelt down with a grunt. His nose was bleeding and scabbed, and hot water flowed down his thick neck, and the smell of rust ran down his neck. In his childhood he was afraid of the dark, and his brain was buzzing, and he was too lazy to collect the wrench after he dropped it. Mu Xue knelt down to pick up the parts, her fingers flying around as she removed the chip and clicked. But the alien claw scratched her shoulder and blood dripped out of her clothes. Her pupils trembled and she murmured in fear. Quantum welding to stabilize the channel? Leg pain plus ghost chatter, chip slippery hand. Dr. Luo, heart is broken. Xiaoyi's rifle blasted 3 heads of red mist, but the magazine clicked empty. His eyes were steely. Crack glared at Luo Li and yelled, "Hypnotic leader? Monsters swallow each other's dreams. The leader is useless, the team is scattered, 500 rounds of ammunition can't hold it. Break out of the fort, or they will all die." The middle-aged woman crawled to grab the dry food and the biscuits were broken into golden pieces. The team's despair surged, and the ugliness of human nature filled the air like a poisonous mist. The hall was filled with mold, pus, and stench that burned the throat and compressed the lungs. The red-eyed shadows had already rushed into the five-headed claws, scraped the steel frame, bent and rained down on the skin, and the ghosts were talking, laughing, and crying, burning the brain like a worm. Luo Li swung the rope and iron whip around the center of the hall. Her eyes were cold and cut through the red light and blood rain. She took a deep breath in the mask and whispered, her chest rising and falling as low as thunder. "Panic feeds the beast, first fight internally and swallow it all. Close your eyes and lock your heart. Return to the hypnotic steel monsters are invincible. They are hungry mirrors." Sun Wan sniped to cover the high point. Li Xiu and Mu Xue welded the passage. Xiaoyi melees the first three heads of the clearing hall. "I'm going to lure him into a fight." Everyone gasped. Sun Wan's blue eyes suddenly shrunk and she tried to lift the steel frame of the gun rack. Her voice was trembling and suspicious. "Psychological warfare beast? The lone sniper god laughs, but try, I believe you." She jumped onto the steel frame and squeaked, and the sniper flames exploded and the red mist splashed on the wall, and the strange shadow flew into the air and scraped the air. Li Xiu gasped and knelt down and stared at Luo Li with eyes wide open. "God boss! The black hole of childhood is burning." "But follow." Mu Xue's fingers stopped trembling and she flew around. The parts were inserted into the steel plate and welded and sparks flew everywhere. She growled in admiration. "Dr. Luo is precise, your partner in the fight." Luo Li ignored the taunt and threw away the medical bag. She used the rope to inject alcohol to sting his nose and suppress the pus smell. She grasped Li Xiu's thick arm with iron pincers and rotated to stop the nosebleed. Her eyes pierced his brain and whispered in rhyme and ghost language. "Breathe the rotten mist deeply and count the 3 flashes of red eyes. The minds in my childhood were not dark. It was my father who was hungry and thirsty for help. Release. Let go of the trembling hands and turn to the will of soldering iron." Li Xiu's pupils suddenly shrunk and his chest heaved like a bellows. He had a dream about his father's body being crushed when he was a child. His brain was buzzing. He shouted loudly and trembled. Dad screamed. Luo's needle was used to wake him up. "Keep your hands steady." The injection was pushed into the vein to cool the pulse, and Luo Li uncovered the red flesh of his nosebleed. Pus and blood swelled and her hypnotic hook went deep. Imagine welding and sealing it is a black hole that forgives Dad. The fear is shattered, and the rugged god is reborn. Li Xiu jumped up with his thick arms and the wrench jingled like thunder. He opened his bloody eyes and locked eyes with Mu Xue and shouted, "Genius girl! Weld the steel plates to my master, and insert the chip tong when the year is over, I will seal the sky." Mu Xue knelt down with her legs limping, and the quantum crystals were embedded in the steel plate. Her fingers were flying, and the welding fire was smoking. Her eyes flashed with admiration and she whispered, "Brother Li is reborn. The hypnosis is awesome, and the passage is half sealed." The alien shadow scratched the steel plate with dazzling sparks, but the welding seam creaked and stopped. Luo Li turned around and locked the 3 red eyes in front of the hall with her cold eyes. She was talking ghostly, laughing and crying like thousands of insects. She swung the rope around her body, and her low and rhythmic voice sounded like a demon thunder in the hall. "Hungry beasts, listen to your heart. You are not the same. You are swallowing each other's mirrors. Looking back. Collapse and feast. The hungry roar of the same kind eats the weak first." She took a deep breath of the stench and pressed her lungs, and the psychological game in her mind was like a knife-edge dance. The ghost whispers of monsters are derived from the residue of human fear. The virus distorts the instinct of hunger and thirst, and induces mutual fighting to feed internal divisions, lower your own fear and raise the suspicion of the beast. She tapped the steel pipe with her fingers, making a muffled sound, simulating claw scraping, and growled in an animal voice. "The weak claws will swallow first. The strong eyes will eat your pus." The first head's red eyes suddenly shrank and the second claws were torn. The flesh of the claws tore apart and blood mist sprayed and sizzled. Xiao Yi's rifle was loaded with a click, His eyes were round and steely, and he shouted tremblingly, "Fuck!" Luo Li's mental battle. Animals eat each other like dogs. I'm clear in close combat, save ammunition and shoot weakly. His flames assisted the internal fighting stumps. Red mist exploded into the wall, and the rain of claws stung the skin. Sun Wan's sniper tube on the top of the steel frame blasted with flames, and his blue eyes burned brightly and roared. The dream of walking alone is broken. Hypnosis lures the beasts to eat each other. The hand is steady and precise. Luo Shan's psychological knife, sniping to protect the sky. The bullet penetrated the inner fighting group and exploded with pus cores, and the black hole in the red IC was reduced by half, leaving only the afterimage. Li Xiu welded the steel plate to seal it tightly. Sparks from the wrench clicked the lock at the end, and there was no shaking when he pushed with his thick arm. His nosebleeds stopped and he laughed loudly. Seal it! The ventilation filters all welded chips buzzed. The air was 70% clean, and the coolness suppressed the stench. The mildew in the hall gradually dispersed, and the clean air entered the lungs like a sweet spring washing the marrow. The ghost's voice was weak and he laughed and cried far away. Xiaoyi kicked the corpses into dust and swept the hall with his rifle. He shouted, "Clear the place!" Luo Li's plan is unbelievable. Team Grimlock. The leader wakes up from his dream and is full of faith. The middle-aged woman hugged her knees and saw the pile of beast corpses. She burst into tears and knelt down to break up the biscuits. Her hands were not shaking and she cried. The god of Luo seduces the god of fighting. The hungry and thirsty beasts kill each other, and the warmth of humanity cannot be snatched. Steady shift. The team gasped and sat around the steel frame. The dust settled and blue light pulsed in the weak hall. The blue map projection showed red dots of the antidote ensnaked underground. Luo Li circled the rope to take inventory, and her voice broke her heart. Materials upgrade: 33 packs of compressed biscuits to last the month, 7 cans of corn to warm the belly, 9 bottles of water for the full term, 12 packs of medical gauze, sedatives, and needles left to prepare for war, 450 rounds of ammunition to save firing, 3 barrels of gasoline to cool the welding pickup returned to the fort. The prototype of the fort's power. A planting area built with steel frames in the hall corner, 5 buckets of water wells for watering. The fragments of the quantum screen were changed into lights to shine on the corn seeds, and 10 yellow grains were found in the hidden cabinet. Planting. The ghost whispers, humanity will breed the future. Li Xiu wiped sweat from his thick arms and stared at him with blood-filled eyes. He shouted in admiration. The god of planning. The childhood was destroyed. I carried the soil in the planting area. The ventilation was buzzing and the air was pure. Mu Xue touched the chip with her fingers and her pupils flashed. Planting quantum lights, the yield will increase. Luo, the genius of the doctor's precise layout. Sun Wan's blue eyes scanned the map fervently. Sniper protection area, the antidote is close to the trap? Psychological warfare is broken. Xiaoyi punched the steel frame with a muffled sound, and the golden entrance of the biscuits warmed his belly. Power is born. Leader Luo Li wakes up the whole team with fire. Fortress home. The night is gray and black, the blue light pulses like a low heartbeat, and the ventilation buzzes, the purifying air circulates coolly, suppressing the whispers of ghosts. The team dispersed in shifts, the women planted khaki grains and buried them in the well water to water them. Sun Wan patrolled the scene with blue eyes on the steel roof of the sniper, and Li Xiu's welding lamp illuminated the hall with a faint blue light like an oasis. Luo Li sat cross-legged on a rope alone in the corner of the hall, her eyes softening, the aftermath of the game in her mind. Luring beasts to fight each other to suppress her own fear. But her sister's trauma was faintly rekindled late at night, nightmare swallowed her brain. She curled up with sweat evaporating. Her sister's voice was as thin as silk in her ears, but it was heartwarming. Sister. The antidote is the red in the underground left passage. Not a trap. It is the corpse of my father hidden under the pile. To cure my hunger. Luo Li suddenly woke up and clenched the whites of her knuckles. The red dots on the map were projected with winding and dazzling trap symbols. Her chest heaved and she muttered coldly again. Sister fantasy? The guidance is true or false, the lab is full of ghost sources. Break the situation or swallow it up. Outside the hall, the wind blew the iron door and whistled. The underground muffled sound reappeared faintly, and the crisis was undercurrent like a sharp knife. Luo Li held the rope with white knuckles, her cold blade eyes pierced through the red dots projected on the map. The runes of the underground left passage flashed like blood snakes twisting. Her chest heaved and her heart pounded, she roared. The hallucination raises doubts, but the red light of the antidote is real. The whole team assembles and breaks into the laboratory. Take shifts. Stop, all supplies are on your back. Masks are all on. Buzzing to suppress the poisonous fog. The blue light pulsed suddenly in the hall, and the team gasped and gasped as they sat around the steel frame. The middle-aged woman planted khaki grains on her knees with trembling hands. She crawled to grab the canned corn juice, which was sticky with fingertips, and the beast howled lowly. Luo Shen suddenly breaks out at night? The monsters feast again, and the hungry child eats me first. Grab all 33 packages of biscuits. Empty the 5 barrels of well water and run away in the pickup truck. She clawed at Sun Wan's legs and tore the corners of his clothes with old blood marks. Her eyes were green with fire and suppressed humanity. He yelled and pushed away. Grab that bitch. You walk alone in a sea of corpses and don't rob. How regretful are you? Luo Shen's shift letter. The assault dream is approaching. The muzzle of the gun is trembling at you. The woman howled, grabbed the yellow pellets and scattered them in the hall, sniffed her nose and burned her throat, and the poisonous fog of humanity once again filled the cracks of the team's steel locks. Li Xiu carried the wrench in his thick arm as the earth bucket jingled. The scab on his nose ached and cracked, and smelled of hot iron. He stared with blood in his eyes, staggered and knelt down, and murmured in fear of the dark. A black hole suddenly appeared in the first night? Dreams of a collapsed mine when my father's body was crushed in my childhood buzzed, and the welding seal was useless. The tunnel was welded and reopened, and the monster's haymate bone was scraped. The wrench fell into the mud and was lazily collected, and the sweat on his thick neck evaporated and the mixed blood scab became sour and rotten. Mu Xue was lame on her leg, picking up parts of the chip while skating and jingling her hands, her pupils shivering in fear of light and whispering. The ultimate door lock rune quantum garbled code. The leg is painful at night. The ghost whispers drill, crack it and shake it to pieces. Dr. Luo is a precision god, believe me? Her frozen fingers were frozen, and her face was pale with the blue fragments of the quantum screen. Xiaoyi clicked his rifle and reloaded, his eyes cracking with steel as he glared at Luo Li. Psychological leader night blind attack? The monster sea with 450 rounds of ammunition can't hold up. And the 3 barrels of gasoline in the pickup truck are cooled and welded to a black hole. The leader's dream is shattered, the woman's human nature is rotten. And there are waves outside the fortress. He punched the steel frame with a muffled sound. Dust rained down and pricked his skin. The despair in the hall surged like rotting mist, and thunder exploded in the ears. The iron door was blown by the wind blowing low, and the ghosts were talking, laughing and crying. Luo Li's rope and iron whip hit the ground in a circle, and the hall was stifled with thunder. Her cold-blade eyes cut through the crowd like knives. She took a deep breath from her mask, which buzzed and purified the air pressure. The stench was low and pounding on her heart. The rhythm exploded. Panic feeds the beast and humanity is swallowed up. Close your eyes and lock your heart and return to the hypnotic steel. The wife divides the biscuits without grabbing them, so as to warm up the future. Li Xiu takes a deep breath of the earth's odor, and counts his father's corpse 3 times. Flash, release the black soldering iron hand of childhood. Mu Xue's leg hurts and chips are flying. The rune is not in chaos. It is the secret key left by his father. Xiao Yi's magazine fantasy, saving fire in close combat wakes up the leader. Everyone's pupils shrank suddenly and gasped. The middle-aged woman clasped her knees and howled, her throat bursting with blood. She knelt down in tears and pushed the corn cans back to the pile and worshipped without shaking. Luo Shen hypnosis hooks are heartbreaking. Scratching waist, human warmth, and suddenness. Sun Wan's blue eyes flashed brightly and he jumped to the top of the steel frame to hold the sniper tube steady and growled. The dream of walking alone is broken. Luo Shen's psychological knife, sniper assault letter 12. Li Xiu jumped up with a thick arm. The wrench clanked like thunder, and the nosebleed stopped with a thunderous smile and glared at Luo Li. The boss's magic needle burns. Childhood is destroyed. I opened the black hole of the welding channel. Mu Xue fingered the go-around chip and embedded it in the quantum screen. She knelt down on her knees and her pupils flashed in admiration. Dr. Luo's heart lock is precise, and the rune sequence is half solved. Xiao Yi's rifle tried to sweep the dust in the corner of the hall. His eyes were round and steely, and he shouted, "Fuck!" The hypnotic fire woke me up. The leader and Luo Li burst out of the sky. The rope was used to open the medical bag, and alcohol was used to irritate the nose and press mold. Luo Li's iron pliers grabbed the woman's arms and rotated to stop the bleeding marks. Her eyes pierced her brain and muttered, "Imagine snatching is not hunger, it's a girl's fantasy to warm her belly. Release her claws and share her steel will." The blood-stained red flesh was turned out, pus and blood swelled, and the hypnotic hook was deep. The mirror is broken by hunger and thirst, and the goddess of warmth is reborn. The whole team wore masks in a buzzing manner, backpacking 33 packs of corn, 7 cans of water, 9 bottles of medical, 12 packs of ammunition, 450 rounds of gasoline, 3 barrels of gasoline. The steel wall of the underground left passage is corroded and pitted. The red dots projecting winding runes are dazzling, and the muffled sound is like a stampede of beasts stampeding on the ground and a gray rain hitting the shoulders. The abyss of the passage bursts with red-eyed waves. The quantum screen of the ultimate door lock at the end of the black hole is as huge as an iron wall, runes are dancing wildly, and the bloodlight rivets are buzzing. The mutated guard monsters are slapping their claws and hook bones to scrape the wall with a squeaking sound. Bo Shi's melted wax limbs twisted and crashed into the door, making a thunderous noise. Mu Xue's red-eyed lock was lame. She knelt down and the chips were flying to open the lock. The runes on her fingers trembled and arced back, burning her fingers. Blood beads seeped out. The monster's claws scratched her shoulders and tore her leather clothes. There were hot blood marks. She growled in fear of light. The ultimate garbled quantum trap. Dad's legacy? Fingers were burned to death, and the door lock was bitten to death. "Dr. Luo, I am heartbroken." Li Xiu carried the filter barrel with his thick arm and rushed forward to hit his head with a wrench. Red mist splashed out, but the yellow mist filled his lungs and he coughed up blood and phlegm was red. He knelt down and gasped for sleep. The filter installation is useless. The monster hooked the dead body and crushed it, and the channel was burned with poisonous gas. Sun Wan's steel wall crack sniper tube exploded with 3 pus cores, but the red eyes swelled and the magazine clicked empty, and her blue eyes trembled and growled. "It's so accurate." Mind control drills into the brain and aims to shake. The lone zombie is dreaming. Luo Li saves. Xiao Yi's rifle melee fire swept 5 stump limbs. Claws rained down and stung his skin. He stepped back and shouted, "Luo Li's psychological warfare black hole?" The guards eat each other's dreams. The ammunition runs out and they are all rotten. The rotting mist of despair pressed down on the lungs and burned the throat. The claws of monsters scraped the door locks and creaked and bent, and the rain fell, ghosts laughed and cried, and insects drilled into the brains, and dust rustled on the walls of the team's retreat, and blood stains burned on the shoulders. The middle-aged woman hugged her knees and then screamed, pushing a water bottle and rolling mud. "The hungry beast eats the heart. The antidote is fake. Grab the water and run away." The ugliness of human nature has resurfaced and the beast howls. Luo Li swung the rope in front of the circle. Her cold blade eyes cut through the sea of red eyes. She took a deep breath from the mask and suppressed the yellow mist in her mind. The blade was playing in her mind. The guard is not a beast, it is the mental network control of the relic virus. She let out a low roar that imitated ghost language and blasted through the hall. "Hungry guard. You are the one who has to eat my father's body. It's a weak-eating mirror. Let's go back to the collapse feast, and the same kind will eat each other first." Her fingers hit the wall and the steel pipe made a muffled sound, simulating a hook scrape. Xiao Yi's eyes widened and he yelled tremblingly, "Fuck!" Luo Li's spiritual battle. The beasts eat each other's dog balls. I'll save ammunition in close combat. The rifle flame exploded and left a wall of red mist inside. Sun Wan's blue eyes were bright and the sniper flames blasted through the fighting group's pus cores. She roared in admiration. "Smash alone! Mentally disintegrate the control network. Steady hand and divine protection." Luo Li's heart sword sniper. The red eyes were halved and the door lock rune flashed weakly. Li Xiu jumped with his thick arm and hit the wrench to open the gap. He inserted the filter bucket into the crack of the door, and inserted the quantum crystal into the crack of the door. The quantum crystal buzzed and activated the yellow mist to absorb and cool down the circulation. He had no nosebleeds and smiled. The air is completely purified. The childhood darkness is gone. The installation is very stable. The arc stopped. He knelt down with a limp. His pupils worshipped and whispered. Dr. Luo seduces and disintegrates the garbled sequence. A genius partner in door lock cracking. The ultimate door lock clicked loudly. The black hole laboratory's blue light burst into red medicine cabinet appeared. And the monster's afterimage was revealed. But the internal fighting was self-eating and the red mist covered the ground. Luo Li used the rope and iron whip to shake off the remaining claws, and the team leader broke into the laboratory steel platform and projected bloody light on the ruins files. The virus originated from ancient ruins experiments. Human experiments on mind control collapsed and mutated. Her pupils shrank suddenly, and her chest was struck by thunder. Her sister was not an illusion, it was a ruins experiment. The girl's voice in her head was broken. Sister. The injection will heal itself, cure my rotten heart. Luo Li grabbed the blue needle of the experimental antidote, which was cold and pungent, and ignored the taunt. Xiaoyi muttered. Self-treatment? Leader's collapse. Pushing the veins to burn the pulse was like fire washing the marrow. The sister's trauma, her brain was buzzing and her flesh was gushing out. She was curled up on the steel platform with beads of sweat steaming and her throat rolling. The cold blade rekindled and roared. The origin of the ruins is shattered. The virus's control over the heart is broken. And my sister is reborn with a will of steel. The needle effect exploded her body, and the demons in her heart flew away. And her eyes were filled with cold blades sublimating and divine light cutting into blue light. The team gasped and widened their eyes and trembled. Sun Wan, the sniper, lowered his blue eyes and roared. Luo Shun, self-healing god. Ruin's truth knife, sniper Yongxin. Li Xiu wiped sweat and bloody eyes with his thick arms and worshipped thunder. The boss heals the inner demons and the spirit follows the sky. Mu Xue touched the chip and his pupils flashed. Precise self-focus. Shoot. Antidote reserve genius. Xiaoyi punched the steel platform with a muffled sound and divided the blue needle. The leader is awakened by fire, and the team is locked forever. The medicine cabinet opened the blue needle. 100 pieces of gauze doubled the sedative. A full bucket of antitoxic masks increased by 10, and the supplies exploded, boosting biscuits, corn water, medical ammunition, gasoline seeds, full year. The middle-aged woman knelt down on the minute hand and warmed her hands with tears welling up. Luo Shan cures the madness. Born in the homeland, human race will last forever. The steel frame of the fortress was upgraded, the hall was expanded, the quantum light oasis was doubled, the corn wells in the planting area were irrigated with water and the yield was increased, the ventilation filter was buzzing and the air was circulated throughout the fort, the iron door was welded to death with machine guns patrolling the top, and the ventilation fort was guarded by shift-lock core planting and guarding. The ventilation fort was locked and guarded by steel students in the new home. The night was fading, and thousands of heads were gathered in the red-eye sea on the horizon, thundering and thundering. On the eve of the monster army's general attack, the ghosts were whispering, "Gluttonous, home swallows." Luo Li crossed her knees on the rope and glanced at the horizon with her eyes, whispering, "Unite steel. Antidote heals the heart. Fight against the army, doomsday rebirth." The team sat around with roaring thunder, blue light pulsating like the heartbeat of a war, and crises exploding like swords unsheathed. The red-eyed waves on the horizon surged like a surging blood tide. Tens of thousands of monsters stomped through the cracks in the bedrock of the fort with muffled thunder. Dust rustled and smashed against the steel frame. Ghosts laughed and cried. Thousands of insects drilled into the brains and burned the marrow. Yellow mist, sour and rotten, rolled tongues, burned noses and throats, and rolled blood. The steel frame of the fortress expanded the hall. The quantum light oasis pulsed and flickered suddenly. The welds of the iron door creaked and bent, and the rain stung the skin. The ventilation filter buzzed and suppressed the yellow mist, but the external pressure was like a mountain of stuffy lungs exploding. The middle-aged woman held her knees and planted yellow corns, cut off the corn shoots with trembling hands, and sprinkled mud on them. She grabbed the steel pipe with her claws and howled wildly. The dream of the Luotian home is broken. Monsters feast again, hungry children eat soil first, antidote blue needles, all wells are emptied, and the pickup trucks are burned with gasoline. She crawled to grab the medical kit and the injections jingled on the ground. Greedy for fire and suppressing the human nature of Nuan, Soon Wan's blue eyes flashed fiercely with the sniper gun, pushing away the bloodstains and tearing away the old ones. Snatch the bitch! The sea of lone corpses regrets Wan to pieces. Luo Shan's shift letter. Sniper to protect the home from death. The woman howled and rolled in the mud, grabbed the yellow pellets and spread mold and rot in the hall, smelled the nose and burned the throat. The poisonous mist of humanity imploded and crushed the team's steel locks. Li Xiu carried the filter bucket with his thick arms, making a clanking sound of dirt and rust. The scabs on his nose ached, cracked, and dripped with hot rust. He stared with blood in his eyes, staggered on his knees, and murmured in fear of the black hole. The army is filtering through the sea of yellow mist. The mine of my childhood father's body collapsed, buzzing, hand shaking and welding optimization. The ventilation exploded, and the monster hook bones scraped the lungs and swallowed them all. The filter bucket was lazily collected after the mud fell out, and the sweat on his thick neck steamed, soaked with mixed blood scabs and burned his nose. Mu Xue was lame on her leg, picking up chip parts and skating with her hands. Her pupils were trembling in fear of light, and she whispered, "The ultimate trap is quantum gibberish, the ghosts are whispering in the dark night, and the legs are painful, and the equipment is shattered. Dr. Luo is so precise, and the fortress kills the home." Her frozen fingers were frozen, and the faint blue of the fragments of the quantum screen reflected on her face, which was pale and dazzling. Xiao Yi's rifle clicked and loaded, his eyes cracked with steel, and he sneered at the crowd. Luo Li's mental steel lock night blindness? Tens of thousands of monsters cannot hold up with 400 rounds of ammunition, and the pickup machine gun top patrol also turns over the camp supplies with yellow mist. The leader's dream is shattered, and the woman robs her humanity. Damn. The fortress is scattered with corpses. He punched the steel frame and thunderous dust fell on his skin and stung his skin. Ashes smelled rotten. Despair surged in the hall, and rotting mist pressed down on his lungs. The wind whistled at the iron door outside, and ghost whispers burned his brain. The walls of the fortress shook and cracked in the bedrock, and gray mist spewed out. Luo Li's rope and iron whip hit the ground in a circle. The quantum lamp oasis in the hall was stifled by thunder. Her eyes cut through the fear of everyone like a sharp blade. She took a deep breath of the antitoxic mask and purged the air pressure. The purulent stench was low and the rhythm was explosive. She roared. Panic feeds the army, human nature robs and devours the home. Close the eyes and lock the heart, and the collective hypnotic steel rotation. Women do not grab the minute injection, and the warm corn grows yellow buds forever. Li Xiu, take a deep breath to count the corpses of the dead mine, and release the magic hand of the childhood optimization filter. Mu Xue's leg hurts and the chip traps are flying, and the quantum non-chaos is the key mechanism of the relics. The agents returned to the pile and cried in admiration without trembling. The Luo Shan collective is ruthless. Scraping scraps, human nature warms the earth. Yellow grains in shifts. Soon Wan's blue eyes flashed brightly, leaping to the top of the steel frame to stabilize the sniper tube, and growled. The dream of walking alone is broken. The Luo Shan psychological knife collective. Sniper training is believed to be accurate by the 12 gods. Li Xiu jumped up with thick arms and the filter bucket struck thunder, and the nosebleed stopped with a rough smile and a thunderous glare at Luo Li. The leader's magic needle burns the collective. Childhood is destroyed. All the black holes in my optimized filter are clean. Mu Xue's fingers were embedded in the quantum trap screen. Her legs were limping and her pupils flashed in admiration. Dr. Luo's heart lock is precise. The mechanism is completely unlocked. Xiao Yi's rifle blast swept the dust in the corner of the hall. His eyes were steely and he trembled. Fuck! The hypnotic fire awakened the whole team. The leader and Luo Li's team destroyed the camp. The rope loop opened the medical kit and hundreds of blue needles were used to pungent the nose and press mold and rot. Luo Li's iron pliers grasped the woman's arm and rotated to stop the bleeding marks. Her eyes pierced the brain and murmured a collective rhyme. Imagine grabbing is not hungry. It is the army of girls and fantasy to warm the whole team. Release the claws, minute injections in steel will collectively regain strength. Give birth. The woman's eyes were contracted, her breasts were undulating, her brain was buzzing, her throat was rolling, she was crying and she was contagious. My sister screams for the hungry army. Luo Shan acupuncture wakes me up. My hands are steady to plant corns. The needle pushed the veins and burned the collective chakras. Luo Li uncovered the blood marks on the woman's red flesh, and swollen with pus and blood, hypnotic hook deep in the hall. The mirror is shattered by hunger and thirst, and the reborn goddess of warmness locks their hearts together. The entire team has 20 antitoxic masks, a backpack of compressed biscuits, 33 packs of corn, 7 cans of water, 9 bottles plus 5 barrels of well water, 24 medical packs plus 100 antidote blue needles, sedatives, a full barrel of ammunition, 400 send 3 barrels of gasoline with yellow grains, jingle bells and shoulders for precise distribution every year. Planting corn in shifts to explode, the eclipse is sufficient. The filter optimizes the yellow mist, large-scale full purification cycle injections, self-healing to treat inner demons, reserves to resist collapse, pickup truck machine guns to double the firepower of the border patrol team to attack. Li Xiu's thick arm welded the optimized filter barrel into the steel frame, causing sparks to fly. The yellow mist outside was heavy, but the inside was buzzing with cool circulation and refreshing the steel. The thick arm smiled and said, "The optimized filter is stable." The army swallowed the poisonous gas, and I was welded in the dark sky in my childhood. Mu Xue climbed on the steel frame with a limp leg and the chips flew away. During the trap embedding sequence, garbled runes shone brightly in front of the iron gate outside the giant quantum screen castle, and the hooks and claws of the mechanism and the arc of the lightning net burst into the wall of gray mist. Her eyes flashed with admiration and she whispered, "Sophisticated mechanisms are all over the place." Dr. Luo's collective heart lock, the genius partner of the Relic Father's trap, bites the army. Sun Wan's blue eyes are fierce and gentle, and she is training for the sniper barrel steel top position. The middle-aged woman's hand trembles and takes over the flames to blast the target's pus core to simulate sizzling. She yells and guides. The steel top is accurate. The Luo Shen psychological knife collective. The hands are shaking and crushing the snipers protecting the Homeland 12. The woman's pupils shrink and her chest rises and falls during the test firing. The flames explode, the dust rains down and stings her skin, and her voice trembles in admiration. The gun god Nguyen teaches, the Luotian faith needle stabilizes the aim. Yi's rifle clicked and made a plan to project the red dot of the ruins file into the camp's supply black hole. He punched the steel platform with a muffled sound and divided the blue needle into a low voice. The team will attack 3 people. I will save fire in close combat, Mu Xue will trigger, and Luo Li will psychologically disrupt the camp control network. The pickup machine gun patrols for supplies, and the army will collapse due to hunger and thirst. The team roared and surrounded the morale steel locks, and the quantum lamp oasis pulsed like the heartbeat of a war, and the burning knife was unsheathed. The dawn is gray and black and crackles with red light. The pickup truck motor thunders and welds the cooling gasoline with 3 barrels of horsepower. It rushes through the gap in the iron door outside the fort. Xiaoyi drives the flames to sweep away the afterimages on the road ahead. Mu Xue rears the chip control mechanism to attract monsters. Luo Li's rope iron whip crosses his knees and sweeps the black hole of the red-eye camp. In the fort, Li Xiu's thick-armed lock filter buzzed and kept clean. Sun Wan's sniper position took turns to blast the cover, and the women planted yellow corn and yellow buds to keep their hands warm and steady. Thousands of red-eyed heads outside the camp are surrounded by supplies of carrion, yellow mist, sour rot, and burning noses. The giant wax of the monster leader melts into the red-eyed core and explodes with blood and light piercing the omentum. The ghost-whispering master controller burns his brain. The home of the gluttonous eats the heart and rots the whole thing. The team rushes to the camp with pickup trucks. The machine gun on the side patrolled Mu Xue's modified body, blasting out rotten flesh and pus in a rain of flames. Xiaoyi's rifle swept the tin stumps with flames in close combat. Claws rained down on the skin. He staggered back and growled. The black hole of the camp's control network. Luo Li will crush it mentally and save his ammunition. The swarm of monsters crunched and tore out the supplies at the Clawhook camp, and the rotten flesh spattered and the stench intensified. The pickup truck in the sea of yellow mist scratched the tires, corroded the body, and bit the car body. The team's ears were buzzing with ghost whispers and thousands of insects drilling into their brains. Mu Xue knelt down with a limp leg, and the chip flew into the trap beside the camp. The arc sequence exploded, and the first wave of 100 molten wax limbs twisted and hit the mechanism. Hooks and claws thundered. Red eyes locked her fingers, trembling and slippery, and the runes backfired and burned her fingers. Blood dripped out and she growled in fear of light. Quantum camp big mess. My father was bitten by the trap. His hand was burned. Dr. Luo, his heart was broken and he was disintegrating. The monster with giant waxy red eyes suddenly shrank and turned its claws, fighting and biting each other, and the yellow mist burned and the sour rotten skin flew away, but the team that stabilized the carrion pile retreated. Xiaoyi punched the roof of the car with a muffled roar. Luo Li's collective gods are fighting against the enemy? Leaders control each other's dreams, and the pickup truck is overturned. The yellow mist of despair pressed down on the lungs and burned the throat. The monster's claws scratched the tires of the pickup truck and chewed them. The ghosts laughed and cried, burning the brain, and the screams of Fu Naibao were far away and the fear of human nature was burning. Luo Li swung the rope in front of the circle and cut the sea of red eyes with the cold blade of divine light. She took a deep breath from the mask and pressed the yellow mist in her mind. The blade of the game sublimated in her mind. The leader is not a beast. He is the mind control network of the relic virus, which can lead to the collapse of the entire army and cause divisions on a large scale, suppressing the fear of her sister and her father's legacy, and raising the suspicion and thirst in the beast. She roared in a low voice, imitating the whispers of ghosts, and blasted the camp. Gluttonous leader. The father of the ruins cannot be eaten by you, but by weak mirrors who eat each other first. Come back to the collapse feast, and the same kind of rotten camps will eat their own supplies. The muffled sound of her fingers tapping on the steel pipe of the pickup truck simulated scratching 10,000 times. The leader's red eyes suddenly shrunk and the wax in his chest melted. He turned his hook and the servant's giant claws tore flesh and blood sprayed out, which was sour and rotten and burned his nose. The waiter bit his throat again and the yellow mist exploded into a chain of pus cores. The fight within the group was like a tide of blood. The rotten flesh rained down and pricked the skin. The hot and stinky pus burned the lungs. The camp supplies the carrion pile, the claws scrape and implode and creak. The monsters eat each other's red eyes and the black hole is in chaos. The ghost whispering master shatters, burns the brain and bites the leader. The wax body spasms, the red core cracks and explodes. Xiaoyi's pupils were as wide as copper bells, and his trembling voice cracked and roared. Fuck, fuck, fuck. Luo Li's spiritual battle is massive, and the leader's dog-eating regiment is completely destroyed. Melee combat aids the bullets, and pickup truck machine guns are raining down to harvest. Rifle flames exploded into a wall of red mist, and rotten flesh spattered hotly. Mu Xue's blue eyes were fiery and bright, and the chip-controlled mine net was fully activated, arcing and swallowing thousands of molten wax. She roared and worshipped her legs and jumped on the roof of the car. A genius who walks alone. Luo Shan's mind destroyed the main control network, and his hands flew to the gods to protect the machine. The camp supplies were exhausted. In the fort, Sun Wan's sniper flames blasted through the group's pus cores and rained down. Her blue eyes widened and she roared. God's accurate steel-top collective. The psychological knife destroys the leader, and the sniper of the heavenly guardian team Yongxin. Li Xiu's thick arm welded the whole net to listen to the roar of laughter from the camp. Purify the air to cleanse the army of poison. The leader's god fights the spirit, and the childhood is black and optimized. The middle-aged woman knelt down and cried, and her hands were steady and she took the injection every minute and shouted. Luo Shan cures the crazy group. The leader is eaten to death, and the human race will never be home. The giant wax red eye core of the leader finally exploded, and the blood was as bright as the sun. The wax body collapsed, and the sea of yellow mist scattered by itself. The sour and rotten smell was refreshing, and the remaining group of thousands of people fought among themselves. The red mist filled the camp and the supplies were filled with carrion. The team's pickup machine gun patrols swept away the afterimages, tire corrosion repair chips were firmly embedded, and supplies were retrieved, but the yellow mist filter barrel was full and the antitoxic reserve doubled. Luo Li shook off the remaining claws with the iron whip of the rope, swept the dark hole of the camp with his divine light and whispered. The master control is broken. The inner demons are disintegrated. The army collapses from hunger and thirst, new steel. The team fort gasped, wide-eyed, trembling and worshipping. Xiaoyi punched the roof of the car to separate the filter residue and roared with blue eyes and steel. Luo Li god-defying psychological war. The leader's dream is shattered, and the team's supplies are shattered. Mu Xue touched the chip and knelt down with tears streaming down her face. Precision God War Partner, Quantum Master Sequencer Qing Tianyong. The whole team's morale roared like a volcano, and the quantum lamp oasis pulsed with blood. Suddenly, a system alarm blared. A red light flashed across the hall like a rain of blood. Ventilation activated.
Underground passage intrusion alarme.
The mutants broke through the wall, and the collapse feast began. Thunder rolled deep in the wall, the ground trembled slightly, dust rustled, ghost voices burst into laughter like beasts waking up. Red-eyed non-corpse shadows rushed into the black hole, claws scraped against the metal, and the metal squeaked harshly. Sun Wan sniped at Guance's deep blue eyes and shrank suddenly. Monster! The antidote is near, but I swallow it first. The middle-aged woman hugged her knees and screamed. Luo Li's shift is broken. The crisis was like a knife hanging from the neck, suppressing the surge. The steel frame of the fortress trembled like a heart spasm, the welds of the iron door cracked, and the gray mist sprayed hot and stung the skin. The blood surged outside, red-eyed, and thousands of thunderous hooves stepped on the dust. The ghosts screamed and burned the brain. The first wave of hooks and claws scraped the door and creaked. The bent steel sheets curled and rained down, and the ashes sniffed and rotted and burned the nose. The oasis of quantum lights in the hall pulsed and flashed. A middle-aged woman planted khaki corns on her knees, cut off the roots and sprinkled mud with trembling hands. She grabbed the steel pipe with her claws and howled green fire in fear. The Luo Li home is shattered. The army hooked the door to swallow the children, and the yellow corns were hungry and the soil was all rotten. Sun Wan's blue eyes flashed fiercely with the sniper gun over her shoulder, and leapt to the top of the steel frame. The flames exploded in the gray fog wall in front of the door. She roared in fear. Walking alone will shatter the dream. The army presses the filter to burst the lungs. The Luo Li psycho knife. Wanxin 12 gods are accurate. Li Xiu carried the filter bucket with his thick arms, rusty and rusty. His nose was bleeding, the scabs were aching and cracking, and he was dripping with heat. He staggered and knelt down with blood eyes wide open, and murmured in the dark hole. The tires rotted and the internal transportation was rotten, and my father's mind collapsed and welded in his childhood. The filter optimization can't hold it, and the monster hooked the lungs and swallowed them all. The filter bucket was filled with mud, and the thick neck was soaked with sweat and sour rot burned the nose. Mu Xue picked up the chip parts with a limp leg and the skateboarder Ding Dang shrank his pupils in fear and whispered. The ghost frequency of the spirit is garbled and garbled. Dad will be killed by the trap in the ruins. Dr. Luo's precision heart lock. The fortress bites the home. His fingers were frozen and the fragments of the quantum screen were pierced with blue thorns on his pale face. Xiao Yi's rifle clicked as he loaded it, his eyes cracking with steel as he taunted the crowd. Luo Li's battle camp is shattered into black? The army with 400 rounds of ammunition cannot withstand multiple waves. The iron gate is welded and the pickup trucks turn over the camp to supply supplies to the leader who has awakened from his sleep. The fists smashed against the steel frame. Thunderous dust rained down on the skin, prickling the skin, and the smell of ashes and rot. The hall was filled with despair and yellow mist compressed the lungs. The outer door was blown by the wind and ghosts were whispering, and the marrow was burnt. Long cracks in the bedrock of the fort wall caused gray mist to burst into the lungs. Luo Li's rope and iron whip hit the ground in a circle. Dull thunder shook the hall, and the oasis regained stability. Her cold blade divine light eyes cut through the fear of the snow, and she took a deep breath in the mask to purify the air pressure and stinky. She roared in a low heart-pounding rhythm with explosive steel. The army is full of panic, and human nature is desperation and devouring the home. Close your eyes and lock your heart, and collectively hypnotize the steel wheel. The woman's corn will never tremble and she will be able to eat for the whole year. The warm sniper god is sure to break hundreds of records exploded. Li Xiu took a deep breath and counted his father's corpse, and released his childhood black repairman's magic hand. Mu Xue's leg hurt and the frequency interference of the chip flew. Ghost words are not chaos, but the father's key. Xiao Yi's magazine fantasy. The frontline melee team attacked in front of the goal. The pupil shrank suddenly, gasping for breath, and the middle-aged woman hugged her knees and screamed with bloodshot throats. Squirting, tears welled up on his knees as he pushed the injection back into the pile. His hands did not tremble and he worshipped and shouted. Luo Shengo's heart is rotten and despairing. The seeds are useless. The warmth of human nature is always on duty. Sun Quan jumped to the top with the sniper tube, stabilizing the sniper tube, and growled. Walking alone. The Luo Shen Psychological Knife Collective. Sniping through the Baixin 12 Guardians. Li Xiu's thick arms jumped to the filter barrel, dinged the thunder to stop the nosebleed, and glared at Luo Li with a thunderous smile. Boss God, the needle burns the collective. Childhood is destroyed. I repair the tire black hole and move inside the sky. Mu Xue's fingers are embedded in the quantum screen. Her legs are lame. Her legs are kneeling and her pupils are worshipping. Dr. Luo's heart is locked to the precise collective. The frequency interference sequence is completely resolved. Xiao Yi's rifle flame swept the corner of the hall. His eyes were round and steely and he yelled, "Fuck!" The hypnotic fire awakened the whole team. And the leader personally broke multiple waves. The first wave of blood is the hook claw wiper. The iron door creaks and the steel bends deep into the gray mist. It sprays the rotten smell of the inner hall and burns the throat. There are thousands of ghosts and insects in the gap between the red eyes. Sun Wan's blue eyes were locked with red cores, and the flames exploded. The pus cores were nourishing and the rain was hot and pricked her skin. The steel frame on her shoulders was as stable as a mountain and she roared. 1, 2, 10. The middle-aged woman's hands trembled, and she received the sniper's flame blast target simulation assistance. Her pupils shrank, her chest heaved during the test, and the dust and rain fell. Her voice trembled in admiration. The gun god Nguyen teaches to break 10. The Luotian faith stabilizes the family. Park. Li Xiu's thick arm dragged the corroded tire and half bit it under the steel frame of the pickup truck. Welding sparks were flying. Rust was smelling and his nose was burning. Mu Xue climbed up on the steel frame with a limp leg and the chip flew into the trap in front of the door. The arc test exploded in the gray mist. Her eyes flashed and she murmured. The frequency interference has been solved for the first time. The ghost language weakness is the father. Dr. Luo's collective heart-lock partner bites the wave. Luo Li's rope circle medical bag and blue needle pushed the slightly injured woman's arm to stop the bleeding marks and veins. Her eyes pierced her brain and murmured a collective rhyme. The wounded and imaginary army is hungry, not the real mirror. Release the pain in the claws, and the minute injection of steel will regenerate. The woman's pupils contracted and the bellows undulated, regretful, and the dream exploded with buzzing throat rolling and sobs contagious. The wounded girl screams for hunger. Luotian acupuncture wakes up, hands are steady. The needle ice burns the collective chakra. Luo Li peels off the bloodstains and pus nourishes the hypnotic hook hall. The painful mirror is broken. The rebirth warms the heart and locks the heart. The whole team wears masks and eats compressed biscuits in shifts, 7 cans of corn, 9 bottles of water, 5 barrels of medical, 24 packs of blue needles -20 sedation, full ammunition -100 gasoline, 3 barrels are enough. The filter buzz in the hall cools the lungs and refreshes the lungs. The first wave of hook-clawed doors shatters. Arcs and lightning nets swallow 100 heads of molten wax, twist and collide with the red eyes and extinguish the black holes. The weak ghost whispers half-burn the brain. Sun Quan sniped through 30 flames and burst the bloody wall in front of the door. Her blue eyes widened and she roared. God is sure to break through 30. Luo Shen's psychological disintegration wave. Nguyen's sniper protects Yongxin. The team gasped and stared in trembling admiration. The middle-aged woman knelt down with tears in her eyes and shouted. Luo Shen heals the collective. The first wave of devouring, human beings plant corn homeland to grow. The second wave of muffled thunder was more intense. The red-eyed sea surged, and the welds of the steel door with giant hooks were deeply cracked. The gray mist imploded, compressed the lungs, and intensified the acid rot. The ghost whispers became stronger and thousands of insects drilled into the ears, buzzed and burned the marrow. Xiaoyi drove a pickup truck close to the door gap. Machine gun flames exploded, rotten flesh and pus spurted hot. He used his rifle in close combat. Claws rained down, blood mist stung his skin and he roared. The second wave is on the front line. Ammunition is saved in close combat. Luo Shen's heart is broken. It is controlled by the leader. Mu Xue's chip-controlled frequency jammer. First the quantum screen turned into a dazzling blue light. The arc of the inlaid trap sequence swallowed the wavehead and melted wax. She knelt on the roof of the car with a limp leg and her pupils were hot. Half of the interference weakness has been solved. Dad's genius sequence of the ruins. Dr. Luo's precision divine battle partner ghost, whispering autophagic implosion. Li Xiu, the tires were transported in shifts to stabilize the corn kernels in the bursting area. The thick arms welded the door steel and the sparks and rust smelled. He laughed loudly and thundered from far away. The internal transportation god has enough tires and corns. Filter out the poison of the army, and I will have a bad childhood. Sun Wan sniped through the 60 flames. As the pus cores rained down from the fighting group, she guided the women with flame explosions and auxiliary attacks with a trembling voice. Break the 60 steel top. Luo Shun's collective sword with trembling hands crushed the sniper guard 12. The woman tried to fire the flames with steady eyes and shouted in admiration. The gun god breaks 60. Luo Shun believes in sniping forever. Luo Li treated the second minor injury of Li Xiu's arm with blood marks, red flesh and pus. She whipped the rope and whipped away the remaining claws, and the divine light swept the hall and whispered. The scratch hurts Dad's mineral magic, it is not the real release of black. The needle steel locks the heart chakra. The thick arm trembled to stop the bleeding. The needle pushed the ice and burned the pulse. The second wave of ghost whispers interferes with self-eating, internal fighting, yellow mist burns each other, sour rotten skin splashes, the hook claw door shatters, the thunder net swallows 1,000 heads. The red eyes reduced the black hole chaos by half. Xiaoyi's pupils widened and trembled as he yelled. Fuck! Mu Xue interferes with the broken waves of the gods, and Luo Shun hypnotizes the leader to avoid bullets in close combat. In the team fort, thunder roared from far away, and Sun Wan's blue eyes exploded with fire. Snipe through 80. The psychological divine war collapsed, and the sniper protects the homeland letter. The third wave of blood surges. The giant wax leader, the red core, locks the door and speaks ghostly words. The master controls the brain and burns the brain. The whole hall buzzes. The iron door bends and creaks. The rain falls and the hot gray fog sea presses to filter the buzzing chaos. The woman's hands trembled as the peak of despair reappeared, and she howled softly. The third wave of master control is heart-gnawing and rotten. But Luo Li's cold blade eyes cut through the rope circle and opened a pile of injections, and the collective rhyme exploded. The master control mirror is broken, the interference feeds and splits on a large scale. Mu Xue's chip fully unlocked the frequency jammer. Buzzing and embedded in steel, the dazzling blue light of the quantum network expansion hall was displayed, and she limped on her legs and shouted in admiration. Weaknesses are all cracked. The genius of the relic father. Dr. Luo's heartlock is so precise, the ghost whispering storm collapsed. Before the interference wave shot, the electric arc caused the giant wax chest to crack, the red core spasms to eat each other, and the blood mist sprayed into the sky. Sun Wan sniped through the 100 flames and blasted the leader's core to pieces. Her blue eyes widened and she shouted in a trembling voice. Breaking the accurate record of the 100 gods. The Luo Shun psychological knife disintegrated the main control, and Wan's sniper was the eternal protector. The female flame auxiliary shot steadily and shouted. Breaking the 100 gunsling god. The Luo Shun faithful shift sniper. Li Xiu filled the tires with 3 barrels of high horsepower gasoline, and thick-armed welded door steel plates embedded deep into the door steel to keep the sparks from flying. His nosebleeds dried up and he laughed thickly. The door is welded with internal tires. The army's poison has been filtered out, and I'm smart. Xiaoyi's frontline pickup truck with machine gun mounted on top of the machine gun patrolled the flames. The leader melee Luo Shen Mu Xue Shen Zhantian. 10 people in the Luo Li treatment hall were slightly injured and healed from the ice burn. The rope whip cleared the gray mist and the divine light swept through the black hole and whispered. The wound demon is disintegrated, new steel. The whole hall gasped and stared in tears, trembling and worshipping. The middle-aged woman knelt down and shouted in tears. Luo Shun healing crazy collective. Multiple waves of devouring. Human nature warm corn sniper Baiyuan Yong. The main force repels the blood tide and recedes. The horizon is gray, black and cracked with red afterimages. The iron door is welded firmly. The gray fog is light, the lungs are refreshed and the circulation is buzzing. The ghost's voice is absolutely clear. The brain and marrow are clear. The quantum light oasis in the hall pulses like a victory and the heartbeat slows down. The team sits around and compresses biscuits, have corn cans, 3 water bottles for medical gauze, 10 blue needles, 30 sedatives, have ammunition, 200 gasoline and 1 barrel. The supplies are exhausted, and the food shortage in shifts is relieved. Li Xiu's thick arms divided the filter slag bucket to double the antitoxic reserve. He glared at Luo Li with a rough smile. Filter optimization, internal transport tire god. Boss collective magic needle. Thick and stable with Tianjiewen. Mu Xue caressed the jammer chip, kneeling with lame legs and eyes bursting with tears. Genius for all clearing frequency weaknesses. Dr. Luo's precise partner. Heart-lock disintegration Dabo Yong. Sun Wan's blue eyes were gentle and fierce, and the explosive sniper tube wiped the flame mark and growled the minute injection. Break the 100 record sniper god. Luo Shun's psychological knife resonance. Nguan guard shift letter 12. Xiao Yi's rifle clicked to project the source of the red dot virus in the relic file. He punched the steel platform with a muffled sound and split biscuits and yelled. Tacit understanding to repel the main force. Luo Shun's heaven-defying psychology and Mu Xue interfered with Sun Wan's breaking of Li Xiu's welding wheel, leading the melee team Gongyuan's new home. The middle-aged woman planted yellow corn sprouts in her hand and burst into the area. She burst into tears and shouted. Luo Shun's faith hooks the heart to save. Multiple waves of crushing human warmth. Sniper seeds take root in the home. Luo Li crossed her knees with a rope and an iron whip. Her divine light swept through the crowd, and her eyes were clear. She took a deep breath from her mask, purifying the air pressure and remaining pus in a low rhythm. The fruits of victory are steel-locked, and materials are being planted in tight shifts, and the sun and foot massage are used to resist the collapse of the inner demons. The reputation of the home is passed down, and the fortress is reborn, but the premonition of the decisive battle, Locke's heart is prepared. The crowd's eyes widened and trembled, their voices bursting with admiration. Leader Luo Shenyong. Team Steel home, repelling many waves of blast. The dust settled in the hall, and the smell of corn subdued the rancid smell. The filter buzz cleared the lungs and the steel was refreshing. The sense of accomplishment was like the residual heat of a volcano, and the morale of steel pulsed and the war heart burned forever. But the red-eyed remnants of the sea on the horizon came back and the thunder became more intense. The welds of the iron gates on the outer wall of the fort were long and cracked, gray mist spewed out, the emergency hooks on the outer wall creaked and bent, and the rain fell in the hot weather. The first wave of army leaders charged with blood and the ghost whispers reappeared. Gluttonous. The home devours the heart. The steel frame of the fort shook and the bedrock cracked, and the crisis blade hung from the throat and pulsated like thunder. The steel frame of the fortress convulsed like a broken bone. Long cracks in the bedrock sprayed hot gray mist that stung the lungs. The welds of the iron door creaked and bent. The giant purple shadow of the wax body pressed against the horizon. The red-eye core exploded with blood, and the omentum shattered like the sun. The ghost whispering storm multiplied thousands of times, burning the brain and marrow, buzzing and bursting. The eardrums in the hall bulged and bloodshot noses sprayed. The Monster King's wax arm clamps a blood wave. Thousands of red eyes, locks the gaps, hooks and claws, wiper steel blades curl up. The rotten smell rises to the sky, burns the throat, sore and cracks the skin. God's home is dead. The king's heart control is completely shattered. And the corn yellow grains are hungry, and the human nature is forever dead. Tears and blood mixed with mud, nosebleeds, scabs and cracks, dripping with heat. Her pupils shrank and fell to the ground, twitching, the phantom of childhood famine biting her brain and murmuring regrets, snatching ashes, sniffing rot and burning her nose. Sun Wan's blue-eyed sniper barrel flashed fiercely over her shoulder and jumped over the steel frame. The flames exploded in front of the door. The gray fog wall was sizzling and hot. She screamed at the top of her throat and fell to her knees with fear and trembling. Sniping alone breaks the dream. Wong Kong burns the brain and lungs. Luo Shun's psychological knife. 1 Xian 12 gods are sure to break. The sniper barrel slid down the mud and lazily closed the blue eyes. Eyes wide with tears and ghost words, controlling the bone marrow burning, walking alone on the verge of collapse. Li Xiu carried the filter bucket with his thick arms, dirt and rust. His nose was bleeding, the scabs were aching and dripping with hot blood. His eyes were round, and he staggered to his knees. He murmured in a black hole, his childhood mind collapsed, and his father's body was shaken and pressed to his brain. The tires are rotten, and the king's lungs and father's black swallows, all the filter optimization can't hold it. Li Xiu's thick arms trembled as he grabbed the steel pipe and his throat cracked and yelled. The Luotian camp is broken? My father's mind collapsed and welded it in childhood. The magic hand in the filter barrel woke up from a dream. Mu Xue was lame in his legs and picked up chip parts. Skater Ding Dong's pupil shrank in fear and whispered to his father's ruins, traps and ghost whispers. The garbled code burns the brain. The mental frequency of the ghost controlled by the king is garbled, and the father's key is to destroy the fortress and bite the whole home? His fingers were frozen and the fragments of the quantum screen were pale. His face was pale and his legs were weak. He knelt down with tears and blood and murmured, Dr. Luo's precise heart is broken, and the king is controlled by the ghost. The genius sequence collapsed. Xiao Yi's rifle clicked, his eyes cracked with steel, he roared, and he stared at the crowd with his fists. The thunder and dust rained down on his skin, and ashes rotted and smelled. Luo Li's war king shattered black? 100 rounds of ammunition. The camp supplies a dream and the leader Sanxing is dead. A peak of despair surged into the hall, and yellow mist pressed down on the lungs. Outside, the wind blew and ghosts murmured, and the bedrock of the castle wall cracked. Gray mist spewed out, and the lungs were stuffy and burst. The whole team's pupils were shrunk, ears were buzzing, bloodshot noses were spraying, and they were on the verge of collapse. Luo Li's rope and iron whip hit the ground in a circle. The pulse of the quantum lamp in the oasis flashed and stabilized. Her cold blade, divine light, eyes cut through the fear of the snow, and she took a deep breath. The mask buzzed, clean air pressure, stinky pus, blood mixed with gray mist burning her nose. The low, heart-pounding rhythm, the blasting steel roar, cut the storm of ghost whispers. The king controls multiple waves to feed panic and despair, and human nature eats up the brains of the homeland. Close your eyes and lock your heart, the ultimate connection with the hypnotic steel, the iron wheel. The chain of collective will reveals the red dot truth about the origin of the virus. She opened the medical bag with a rope and a blue needle antidote. Shengguang scanned the hall and projected the ruins. The source of the virus was blue and dazzling. The source of the virus was mind control. Ghost language. Weakness. Autophagy. Main control core. Deep-sucking mask. Compressed biscuits. Corn cans. Eat-in shifts. Muttered rhyme hook brain. All members. Women who grow corn will not tremble and will live for a long time. Regret on famine black. Warm sniper god is about to break the 100-year record. Explode the core alone and break the dream and lock the letter 12. Li Xiu deeply inhales the smell of soil and counts his father's corpse. The mind collapses 5 flashes to release the childhood black repair tire. God's hand filter optimizes the sky. Mu Xue's leg hurts and counts chip frequency interference. Flying Dad's ruin trap bites the death sequence to solve the ghost language king's control weakness. Sleeve steel. The pupils shrank suddenly, gasping for breath, and the lungs were filled with bloodshot noses. The middle-aged woman hugged her knees and howled, her throat bursting with bloodshot tears, and she knelt down to push the injection. Her hands did not shake. She worshipped and screamed with trembling voice. The Luotian hook has a rotten heart and the king controls despair. I am so useless and regrets that I am snatching humanity's warm corn to shift my home forever. She grasped the steel pipe with her hands and steadily planted khaki corn sprouts. Sun Wan's blue eyes burned brightly as she jumped to the top of the sniper tube frame, her legs steady but not weak, and her voice trembled with a low roar. The king of broken dreams alone controls the fire. The ultimate psychological knife of Luoshan is united to snipe through Bai Xin, and the 12 gods of protection. The steel frame on her shoulders was as stable as a mountain. The Flame Lock King's red core test exploded in front of the door, causing the gray mist to sting her skin with heat. Li Xiu's thick arms leaped over the filter bucket to stop the nosebleeds. He laughed loudly and thundered, glaring into Luo Li's pupils, and the copper bells trembled. The boss's ultimate magic needle burns the group king control. My father's body was wiped out when the mine collapsed in my childhood. I repaired the tires in the black hole to optimize the natural spirit. Mu Xue's fingers were embedded in the quantum screen with a go-around chip, embedded in the quantum screen. She was limping on her legs and knelt down in admiration. Tears flashed in her eyes. Dr. Luo's ultimate heart lock is a precise collective connection. The frequency interference sequence solves the weakness of Wang Kong's ghost language and his father's genius. The pain in her legs disappeared. The quantum network expanded the hall, and the blue light dazzling interference wave shot before the electric arc test exploded the wax body's red core spasm. Xiao Yi's rifle flame swept the corner of the hall. His eyes were round and steely, he was trembling and his throat was cracking. Fuck! The ultimate hypnotic fire awakened the whole team's king control. The leader personally went to the front line with a broken wax body melee team to attack Tiangang. The whole hall gasped, eyes wide with tears and blood trembling, worshipping the explosive roar of Lei Yunjuan. And the wall of the fortress shook and the dust settled. The Monster King has a wax body, a red eye, a core lock, a gap in the mountain, ghost whispers, a storm burning the brain, buzzing, filtering chaos, the first wave of hooks and claws, a blood tide, clamping the king's control, scraping the iron door, creaking, the steel bent, sinking deeply, gray mist spraying into the inner hall, a putrid odor, burning throat, red eyes, thousands of locks, gaps, insects boring into the brain. Luo Li's rope circle medical kit, blue needle antidote, pushing women's arms, rotate the women's arms to stop bleeding, marks and veins, ice burns, self-healing, eye hooks, king control murmur, collective rhythm, connecting the will of all members. The red dot of the origin of the virus, the human experimental mind control ghost language, implants the weak autophagy main core. Release the claw pain king illusion, the minute injection, steel will rebirth, disintegrate the core. The woman's pupils shrunk, her bellows undulated, her regretful dream exploded, her throat rolled, her voice roared, and her voice trembled contagiously. The king controls hunger, phantoms eat the heart. Luotian needle wakes up to the end, and the hand is steady to plant corn homeland. The needle ice burns the veins, the collective rotation of the virus, the true projection of the blue thorns in the eyes, burns the brain. The king controls the ghost language, weak semi-autophagy, implodes, yellow mist burns each other, sour rotten skin splashes. Sun Wan's blue eyes locked onto the king's red core flames and fired continuously. The pus cores were sizzling and the rain was hot and pricked her skin. The steel frame on her shoulders was steady and she roared tremblingly. 1, 2, 10. The connection of the god of Luoshan is broken. Li Xiu dragged the filter barrel with his thick arm, and the welding sparks flew, the rust smelled, and the steel plate embedded in the steel frame of the internal transportation was burned. Mu Xue climbed up on the steel frame with a limp leg, and the chip flew into the ultimate relic filter. The quantum screen was fully opened and the blue flash was dazzling. Her pupils were hot and trembling. Frequency interference is the ultimate solution to the weakness of the king's ghost language, and the relic father's complete sequence. Dr. Luo's collective heart lock partner disintegrated an autophagic implosion. The interference wave shot before the electric arc, thunder net, swallowing hook, claw, molten wax, twisting, collision, sizzling red eyes, extinguishing the black hole chaos. Xiao Yi drove a pickup truck into the door gap with a machine gun, patrolling the flames and sweeping away the front wax-armed red shadow rifle. He fired the hook claw in close combat and shattered the blood mist and sprayed acid rot. He stepped back and punched the roof of the car with a muffled roar and his pupils widened. Crushed the first wave of king control on the front line. Luotian Ultimate Link Steel. The leader close combat assists the sky and saves bullets and firepower. Luo Li's cold blade divine light swept through the hall to reveal her own trauma and murmured a collective rhyme. The origin of the virus engulfed my sister's hospital. The nurse disappeared and the phantom pain mirror shattered. The ultimate needle wheel injects the antidote to disintegrate the king's core. And the human steel lock is reborn. She whipped the rope to clear away the remaining gray fog, her eyes cut the remaining fears, the snow was bright, and the blue needle antidote pushed Li Xiu's arm scratches, red flesh averted, pus nourished the ice and the pulse was healed, his thick arms trembled to stop the bleeding, his pupils shrank, his chest rose and fell and he shouted loudly, Meihei Hospital is destroyed. Luoshan's ultimate magic needle burns out the trauma, and the spirit welds and filters the inner luck to somersault. The morale in the hall was steel-locked, roaring thunder, quantum lights, oasis pulsing, war, heart burning like a volcano, the first wave of king-controlled hooks and claws, shattering arcs, thunder nets, swallowing 10,000 heads, melting wax, red eyes, halved ghost speech, weak autophagy burning the brain. Sun Wan's sniper broke through the 30-year flames, and the pus exploded into the wall of blood in front of the door. Her blue eyes widened and she roared and trembled. God is sure to break through the 30-year series. Luo Shan's psychology finally breaks down Wang Kong. And Wan's sniper protects Yongxin 12. The team gasped, widened their eyes, shivered, and burst into tears in admiration. The middle-aged woman knelt down in tears and shouted. Luo Shan heals the ultimate collective. Wang Kong devours human warmth, and corn snipers take root in their homeland. The second wave of the Thunder King's wax arm waved more intensely. The sea of red eyes surged with giant hooks, steel door welds, deep cracks, gray fog, implosion, lung pressure, acid rot, intensified by ghost whispers, rejuvenation, insects drilling ears, buzzing, burning marrow, master control, filtering, buzzing, chaos. Xiaoyi drove a pickup truck close to the door gap. Machine gun, flame rain, rotten flesh, pus, hot rifle, close combat, claw rain, broken blood mist, piercing skin, roaring pupils. The second wave of kings presses the front line. Ammunition saving, close combat, Luo Shan, ultimate heartbreak, its leader controls firepower. Mu Xue cheap. Controlling the ultimate jammer, the quantum screen is completely dazzling. The steel frame is embedded with a large, dazzling electric arc. The wave head melts wax. She kneels on the roof of the car with a limp leg and roars with hot eyes. The interference weakness is solved to completely control the king. The genius sequence of Dad's ruins is the ultimate. Dr. Luo's precision divine battle partner ghost. The autophagy imploded on a large scale. Li Xiu's internal transportation tire stabilization corn yellow kernels exploded in shifts. Thick arms welded the door steel sheet. Sparks rusted. Smelled the nose, burned steadily and squeaked. He laughed loudly and glared at Luo Li from afar. The internal transportation god tire filter optimizes the corn full year Wang Duhang. I was a gangster in my childhood. Sun Wan sniped through the 60 flames and penetrated the pus core rain. The woman's flame burst auxiliary attack roared. Break the 60 steel top. The ultimate Luotian collective sword. Crushing the 12 sniper families with shaking hands. The woman tried to shoot the flames and her pupils worshipped and shouted. The gun god has broken through 60 years, and the sniper of the Luotian faith is always on duty. Luo Li treated the second minor injury of Mu Xue's leg. The pain mark, the pus, and the rope whip shook off the remaining claws. The divine light swept the hall and muttered. The leg hurts Dad's trap, the illusion is true, and the needle steel locks the heart chakra is the ultimate.
Mu Xue's legs trembled.
The blood needle pushed the ice, burned the pulse, the pupils shrank, the chest heaved and roared to the collective. Bite the ruins of Dad to death. The goddess of Luotian needle awakens the genius, the ultimate disintegration king of quantum interference. Thunder roared in the hall, and the second wave of ghost language interfered with the internal fight. Xiaoyi's eyes widened and he shouted, "Fuck!" Mu Xue finally interferes with the broken wave of the god, and the Luotian connection leader saves bullet firepower in close combat. Thunder roared in the team fortress and Sun Wan's blue eyes were blazing. Snipe through the 80-year-old. The ultimate collapse of the psychological battle between gods. Sniper to protect our homeland Shinaga. The third wave of blood surges, the king's wax body, the core, the red eyes, the locks, the cracks in the door, the ghost whispers, the brain burning, the whole hall, the buzzing, the iron door bends, the rain falls, the hot gray fog, the sea pressure, the buzzing, the desperate edge, the woman's hands tremble and howl low. The third wave, the king's control, eats the heart and destroys everything. But Luo Li's cold blade eyes cut the rope. The blue needle was opened and the antidote pile was finally injected into the collective rhyme of explosive steel to connect the will of all members. The origin of the master control mirror-shattering virus feeds a large-scale division. The antidote disintegrates the core and collapses. She swept the king's red core with her divine light and projected the truth of the blue thorns, wax body, chest cracks, spasms, mutual devouring, and blood mist spraying into the sky. Mu Xue's ultimate filter was fully opened. The buzzing quantum network was expanded. The fort was fully filtered. The gray mist was purified. The lungs were refreshed, and the circulation was refreshing. She jumped on her legs and roared with tears of admiration. Weaknesses are all cracked to the ultimate. The genius of the relic father is in full order. Dr. Luo's heartlock is precise, and the storm of ghost whispers destroys the home. Sun Wan sniped through the Baiyin explosion king's core. nourished and shattered the light. Her blue eyes widened and trembled, shouting, "Break the accurate record of Baishan and continue to explode." The Luo Shen psychological knife finally disintegrates the master control. And Wan snipers top the eternal guard shift. The woman fired with a steady hand and yelled. The god of breaking hundreds of guns continues. Luo Shen faith takes turns to snipe Yang. Li Xiu carried 2 barrels of gasoline inside the tires and replenished the tires. He had a high thick arm and welded the door steel sheet deeply embedded with sparks flying steadily to stop the nosebleeds. Lei laughed crudely. Door welding internal transport tires filter the ground. The king's poison is clean. I and the leader are at home. Xiaoyi's frontline pickup machine gun patrols the flames and ends with the remaining wax shadow. The claws crush and save the firepower. The fist hits the roof and shouts. The third wave of the king is broken. The team has a tacit understanding of steel lock. In the end, the leaders close combat with Luo Shen Mu Xue. And Sun Wan broke through the Li Xiu welding sky. Luo Li's treatment hall injected the self-healing antidote for minor injuries into the whole acupuncture chakra and ice burning, and injected the disintegrating king's spiritual core. The rope whip cleared the gray mist and the divine light swept through the black hole and whispered, "The wounding demon king controls. Disintegration, the new steel home." The whole hall gasped, eyes filled with tears, trembling and worshipping the roaring thunder. The middle-aged woman knelt down and shouted in tears. Luo Shanhe is the ultimate collective of madness. Wang Duobo eats it to death. And the warm corn of humanity destroys hundreds of homes for eternity. King Wax body mountain spasm, chest split, red core autophagy implosion blood mist sprang into the sky stinking rot, burning nose electric arc, thunder net, swallowing wax twisting red eyes extinguishing black holes chaos the army collapses and disintegrates gray and black cracks on the horizon, afterimage retreats ghostless speech brain marrow steel clean filtration buzz complete circulation, lungs refreshing cool steel. The fort steel frame stopped the bedrock from cracking, sealed the gray fog, and the light iron door was welded to stabilize the quantum lamp. The oasis pulsed like a heartbeat and was as slow as the residual heat of a volcano. The team sat around 16 packs of compressed biscuits, 4 cans of canned corn, 4 cans of shift food, 5 bottles of well water, 5 barrels of medical gauze, 14 packs of blue needle antidote, 50 sedatives, half a barrel of yellow mist filter residue, full of antitoxic, doubled gasoline, 2 barrels of stable ammunition, 50 rounds left in the pickup truck, enough for close combat. In the hall, the corn is fragrant and pressed, and the rancid smell is refreshing. The yellow grain buds in the planting area are bursting. The harvest is full of years. Li Xiu's thick arm is divided into filter buckets for antitoxic reserves. He smiles and stares at Luo Li with fiery pupils. Filter optimization is the ultimate inland tire divine purification of the king of poisons. The boss's collective magic needle wakes up all wounds, and the thick and thin family will have a good harvest forever. His sweaty neck healed and his nosebleeds healed. His thick arm welded the steel frame of the hall to expand the planting area and stabilized it. Mu Xue caressed the ultimate jammer chip, knelt down with lameness, stopped her pupils and burst into tears. She shouted in admiration. The genius has fully unlocked the frequency weakness and fully activated the ultimate filter. Dr. Luo's precision partnered with the heart lock to disintegrate the king's control of multiple waves. And the homeland will be harvested forever. Her fingers flew into the machine traps, thunder nets, and the quantum screen pulsed with blue throughout the castle. Sun Wan's blue eyes are gentle and ferocious. The blasting sniper tube wipes the flame marks and roars to guide the women's sniper training in shifts. Break the 100-year record and continue to explode the king's core. The Luo Shen psychological knife's ultimate resonance collective collapses. Wan protects the shift letter 12 sniper species Ayanaga. The woman's hand-steady flame assists to break through the 20 pupils. She worships the tears and shouts. The gun god Wan teaches to break the 20 continuation. The Luo Shen belief hooks the redemption. Regret for snatching human warmth, planting sniper shifts, home harvest, deep roots. Xiaoyi's rifle clicked, projected relics, archives, virus source, full solution, red dot, punch, smash steel platform, muffled sound, crackers roared, eyes wide trembling. Tacit understanding to repel the king's main force, all collapsed. Luo Shen's defying psychology, ultimate Mu Xue interference, Ultimate Sun Wan, Breaking 100, Li Xiu Welding Leader, Close Combat Team, Steel Source New Home, Harvest. Luo Li's rope, iron whip, cross-legged, divine light swept through everyone's eyes, cutting away all the remaining fears, extinguishing all the remaining fears, clearing the snow, taking a deep breath, the mask humming, purifying the air pressure, leaving the pus and summarizing in a low rhythm. The ultimate victory is the steel-locked collective, the origin of the virus is revealed, the magic heals the wound, and the materials are rotated and harvested. The harvest day is full. The home is resistant to collapse and forever. The sister hospital is black and painful, the mirror is broken, and the new steel will team unites to survive and hope. She revealed the wound blue needle, self-propelled arm scars, ice burn pulse, self-healed all pupils. Fiery round eyes, trembling voices, crackling roars of admiration exploded like thunder. Luo Shenyong, the leader of the miracle doctor. The Team Steel home has a good harvest, repelling Wang Duobo's refreshing explosion therapy and rebirth. The dust settled in the hall, the fragrance of corn was overwhelming. The rotten smell filtered out, the lungs were cleansed, and the steel was refreshing. Sunrise in wasteland, golden light thorns, gray-black horizon, fortress, steel frame expansion hall, iron door welding, permanent ventilation, filter optimization, fully clean quantum lamp, oasis, doubled planting area, golden swaying corn, fragrant and refreshing, team gathers around fire, compresses biscuits, corn cans, eats and shifts, laughs, thunders, Li Xiu's thick arms carry newly welded filter barrels, internal transportation is full of gasoline, Mu Xue's leg healed, and the chip embedded. In the machine mine net buzz to guard the patrol. Sun Wan's blue-eyed and ferocious sniper barrel held the woman's shoulder to teach the woman how to break through 30 assist attacks. Xiao Yi's patrol rifle punched his shoulder and shouted. The new home has a good harvest of steel, and the leader of Luoshan has a tacit understanding of the team's hope of survival. The middle-aged woman's hands are full of corn kernels. Tears of joy roared. Luoshan's faith is hooked to save the world, regrets robbing humanity's warm seed, and the sniper shift home has deep roots. Luo Li sat cross-legged with a rope whip and swept away all the cold blades with his divine light, his eyes bright, and murmured in rhythm. The doomsday desperate situation heals the crazy mind, cracking the ruins, punctured tires, changing wheels, ventilation, filtration, fortress, the survival frenzy is complete, the new home is harvested, the will is united to resist all calamities, the pressure of survival turns to eternal hope. The crowd gasped with joy, eyes filled with tears, and hugs roared from the wasteland. The steel of the fortress was pulsating, the heartbeat was reborn, the golden light shone, and the fragrance of corn was floating. The team healed the trauma and looked forward to the future, taking turns to protect the homeland. It was exciting and sustainable. The horizon suddenly blackened, the clouds cracked, and the purple-red giant shadow appeared. The Monster King's wax body, the red-eye core of the mountain, exploded with blood, and the omentum was shattered by the sun. He unleashed a spiritual storm in ghost words that were multiplied thousands of times, burning the brain. The whole castle buzzed and exploded. The heart-eating king is coming. Our homeland is dead and hungry forever.